Well, hey, Jennifer, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm fabulous. How are you? How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm wondering if the YouTube stream is working though, because I don't see it as working, and my YouTube studio isn't working, and I wonder what's going on. So
Uh-oh.
can people chat in and let me know if the
I see
stream
a
is
chat.
working? You know what might be happening is YouTube may have signed me out. Okay, bot says it's working. Okay, so this is on my end. YouTube likes to do this every once in a while where as soon as I start a stream of something, they sign me out of the YouTube studio. So
Oh,
then it
that's
looks
nice
like
of them.
nothing is working. Well, while I fix this, Jennifer, how are you? What's been going on in the last couple weeks since you've been last with us?
Oh, well, we went on a. Has it been to? No, I was here. Oh, we did the
No.
debate last week.
We did the debate. Oh, that's right. We did the debate last
Yeah.
week instead of
Oh,
DISENRAGE. It was the previous week that I did I did the Nashville shoot. No, were you here for that? I did
yeah.
something while you were gone. Okay. I forget. I don't even know. I don't even know
Maybe
anymore,
it was
Jennifer.
Nashville. No, because I wanted to do that. I don't remember.
You know
Whatever.
what?
Something else happened.
Time is a social construct that has been created by capitalism. That is not that is not real. I mean, time really is a construct, but it wasn't created by capital. That's a whole that's a whole other show for a different day. But but before we get into our topic, do you want to see something cool that we created on the last stream that I just think you'll have a great appreciation for as a writer and a scholar?
Okay. I'm slightly alarmed now, but yes, please go ahead.
So, do you know how are you a Lord of the Rings person? Are you a
I
Tolkien
do.
fan?
I'm a fan. I'm not a complete nerd, but I'm not going to say I didn't watch thousands of hours of videos about the Silmarillion and all the Lord of the Ring like nerd background stuff
Well,
at all.
do you know how? So growing up, my father was really into Tolkien, and one of the very distinct memories I have growing up is that my parents. There we go. Now I'm back in my YouTube studio. Now my parents actually had like this giant map of like Middle Earth, like hanging on the wall, and I always thought that was kind of cool because like you could see all the different areas and stuff like that, and it kind of helps you make sense of the book. Well, on our last stream, guess what? We now have a Tolkien inspired map of the land of Retardia.
Stop. Oh my God, is that Australia?
Well, yes, because Australia is the
You're not gonna get an argument from me on that.
Australia.
I can't read the realms. What does it say?
This is where we're shipping all the dumb people in the world, and it's up here. It's the Gnostic sex cult. And over here is the woods where people get banished to in the land of Retardia when people don't want to be around them. And over here, but we really should update this. We should make this say King James Lindsay the First of Retardia, and this is where James holds court in the land of Retardia.
I love that. And his scepter have a squeaky toy in the top, so when he bangs it, it goes. Ee!
that really should be. I'm feeling like the need to maybe do a whole James Lindsay as a retard like collection in my merch store. Not that I don't necessarily think that like people would be interested in buying it and wearing it, but it's like it would make me laugh.
It would make you feel better.
Yeah, it would make me feel better about the fact that he is far inferior to me in every possible way, and yet here we are.
You know those mugs? I was thinking about this. I don't know if you can do this in where you do your mugs, but you know those mugs that when they heat up with something warm, it changes or a message appears. So you can have like a picture of James Lindsay, and then when it's warm, it like changes into a clown face.
That's actually a really good idea. I don't know if I can do that with the mugs. I know I can change the color of the mugs. I don't know if I can morph a picture, but that might be something to look into. All right. Well, that's enough shenanigans, Jennifer. We're here to talk about Satan.
Yes. All hail. All hail our Lord of Darkness.
All hail Satan. Oh, wait. Spiraling Monk says, does Retardia have a national anthem yet? No, we're going to have to work on that. That's a very good note. We also need a flag. Bach, can you work on a flag, please?
We definitely need a flag. I think there was a chat from Murphy's Pool earlier.
Oh, a super chat. Hang on. Sorry. Thank you. My Entenmann's disease is flaring up today. What does that mean?
Entenmann's is a pastry maker, and they are amazing pastries, and everybody needs to eat them and bathe in them, and they are delicious.
Oh, it's a pastry disease.
It's a pastry disease. Yeah, they make delicious pastries.
Man.
We used to have an Entenmann's store nearby that we could get it fresh, and it was really good. It's closed, though.
Now I'm not going to want pastry, Jennifer. Like, what the hell? Oh, God.
So good.
So we are gathered here today to talk about Satan.
Oh.
Not to hail Satan. We are not Satanists here, although I do have a Satanist in my community, but we're so here is my conception of Satan. Let me know what you agree with and what you disagree with. I believe that Satan is a man-made invention that was invented to basically keep people in check by making them afraid, and that I don't believe that hell is a real place. I believe that hell is also a man-made invention that, again, is to keep people in check, to make them afraid so that they comply with the religious order and they do whatever the powerful in the religious order want them to do. That's what I believe. What do you think?
I do. I think it has. I think Satan is a product of the need to have a. Excuse me. I have a very like barky dog over here. I don't know if you can hear her.
I can. That's all right. I have yappy dogs on the channel all the time.
She's over here. She's very excited that we have company, so she's just like.
We have a dog-friendly channel. We are used to barking and growling and yapping and whining and all that stuff.
I'm just trying to keep her quiet. Anyhow, so what was I saying? I think Satan is a conglomeration of many deities, and looking at it from a useful standpoint, he ruled the office of the underworld, the office of sin, the office of like the evil realms. But looking at it in a dichotomy as in good versus evil, he was necessary to inspire worship to God, to have something to blame. There's also, as much as God was created in certain mythos, Satan is created in certain mythos, because back in the day, everybody was polytheistic. Everybody. Is that a hubbin?
No.
Yeah, it is.
It's a slime.
There was a hubbin giving you slime.
No, I've got a big pile of it.
Oh, I
Don't
thought you were
worry.
smiling at someone.
No,
No,
I
you're
got.
now you're
I
talking.
was trying to slyly grab my slime so I could play with it while you were talking.
Oh, I got my
You got your
thinking
putty?
putty.
Good.
Yes, my thinking putty. Back in the day when everybody was polytheistic, gods fulfilled roles. They were like the managers of things. And they all had bunches of names, and throughout the thousands and thousands upon thousands of years of our ancient history, these gods' names have changed and mutated. Their roles have changed and mutated. But most of the time, if you look at any pantheon, you can follow right down almost a straight line gods turning in with different names. The most obvious of which, of course, is going from Greek to Roman names, from Zeus to Jupiter. Zeus to Jupiter, Kronos to Saturn, Hades to Pluto. That's our, Aphrodite to Venus. That's very direct. But going back, you can even correlate those directly to Egyptian gods. You can correlate them to Mesopotamian gods. You can go even further back, all the way Syria and all of the Middle East, where all of that culture was thriving. You can almost have a pantheon that shows beat for beat each manager, as I'll call them, for lack of a better term, each god as a manager over what they ruled. There's stories, there's mythos. The thing that the ancient people understood was that mankind, of course, is not perfect, and their gods reflected that. They were not perfect. So when monotheism came along and says, we have the answer, we have the one God, we know why everybody was created, we know where everybody comes from, we have all these answers, and they had to convince all of these cultures there's only one God. And these are people that have been living with dozens of gods for thousands of years. And how do you do that? Mm-hmm. Well, how do you know your one God is the only God and that he's actually a good God? Because for them, morality was a little more subjective. So it wasn't always about good and evil. It was about what happens in life and who do you pray to? What do you worship? Who do you worship? What ceremonies do you perform to curry favor so that you have abundance and health? But it wasn't so much about good and evil. And with monotheism, they had to bring that dichotomy in. So now you've got a good God and he's good. Well, how do you know he's good? Oh, because there's this evil God too. That's bad. Oh, but he can't be a God because there's only one God, right? We're monotheistic. Okay, well, we'll make him an angel. He was a creation of this God. And he went bad. He was bad, like a rotten fruit.
Fallen angel.
Fallen angel came much later. Like the invention of Satan as we know him today didn't even really finish off until the Middle Ages.
Man. So let me just talk about some of the things that you said that I found interesting. So you made me think of something like tarot cards, right? Because with tarot cards are just they're archetypes of different experiences in life that we'll all kind of go through. And tarot cards are all the different tarot cards are aligned with different astrology, astrology signs, whatever.
And elementals and astrology.
Yep, exactly. And numerology for that matter.
Yeah.
And so it's all it's all this connected. And when I think about angels too, if you think about the different archangels that exist, you pray to different archangels if you want different things.
They kept the polytheism, didn't they, intact?
They did a little bit, bit. But if you want protection, you pray to Archangel Michael, or if you want, to be what is that? I always forget. Archangel Gabriel is, I think, healing, right? Is it?
I think Gabriel is a protector and defender. I guess also, what is Gabriel? Help me, Bob. Sorry, I have a friend here. Shh.
That's okay.
He's over here shaking his head. I'm like, well, yeah, you have to.
Catholic. He's a secret Catholic.
So
Gabriel
Michael is protection, and Raphael has some healing.
Raphael, that's healing. That's the one I was looking for.
Gabriel is more the messenger and also showing the power of God. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So, and there are a million different types of angels too.
Humility. For Saint Michael's humility. We could tell my husband, who's Michael's namesake, about that humble thing.
But it's but I guess the point is, it's not you're looking for the energy that's going to best suit whatever situation you're in at any given time to serve whatever that situation is, so that you can come out in your most advantageous.
Yeah, it's the same thing as how pagans prayed, but it's a different pantheon, and in a different way, in a different aspect. So monotheism, the angels are created by one God, whereas in paganism or in polytheism, a lot of the gods either spontaneously came to be or beget other gods. They came together through a union, a binary. So there's always been binary in polytheism. This is another thing that's interesting. It's a binary as in male and female. It's not good versus evil. Each deity encompassed different aspects that could be considered by today's moral standards good and evil at the same time. If given to excess, the god Dionysus, the god of wine, is celebrative and feasting and partying and dancing and music and joy and love. Or also maybe they got a little too imbibey and got a little too crazy, and then they felt like shit the next day. Okay, so there's ways to good and evil to both things. But in this way, they were able, in monotheism, they're able to say, this is all the goodness and things that we need to aspire to be. It's perfect. You'll never be this perfect. And also there's this horrible evil thing down here that's going to tempt you, and it's responsible for all the pain. So you can never you can't say, well, Venus is cursing me because I can't find love, or she's blessing me because I can find love. It's God is blessing me because I found love, or the devil is cursing me because I can't find love. So they're able to have that dichotomy. I don't know if I went on a tangent there. I may have. It's very possible.
I also feel like when you look at it from that perspective, though, you also are kind of abdicating responsibility for your experience, right? It's like, if you think that you can't find love because, Satan is cursing you, or you've done
then you have no responsibility.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's a reality that you're creating for yourself. And because that's your belief system, that is what is manifesting in your life. If you tell yourself over and over again, I can't find love, well, obviously, yeah. And Henry Ford said that, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Exactly.
So that's how manifestation works. Manifestation doesn't judge whether or not the thing that you're manifesting in your head is positive or negative for you. It just says this person is thinking I can't find love. So you manifest that you can't find love.
Yeah. And conversely, though, if something really good happens, you give praise to God. You give that to God. You don't take it in yourself. So you are always checking your pride, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So it's either, it's because God has blessed you, or God has done this great work in your life, or Satan has caused this horrible thing in your life, and God has allowed it because he loves you and he wants you to grow and learn. But Satan's always here going, yeah. So that's. But again, like you said, there's no self accountability. I won't say no, that's not fair to say. There's not as much. If it is your cause and effect that you are dealing with and struggling with, and the strengths you need come from different aspects, if you don't necessarily have that. If you have something to blame or something to praise for it,
I actually think so. People say this to me all the time when I tell them I don't believe in Satan, I don't believe in hell. They say, well, Carlin, how do you have any moral compass to live life then? And I say, well, I know I'm going to experience karma for whatever I do. If I do good, I'm going to experience good. If I do bad, I'm going to experience I'm going to experience whatever I put out into the world, whether it's in this lifetime or the next lifetime or any of that. And so that is the ultimate form of accountability. It is an absolutely inescapable form of accountability. In which you have to take responsibility for everything you experience, right? And I don't think people understand that. It's a very extreme form of accountability. Whereas I think that if you can blame Satan on things and say, "Oh, the devil was tempting me to do this," that's actually abdicating responsibility more for your behaviors than someone saying Satan isn't real. I'm responsible for everything I do in the world.
I do believe, yes. I think there's a power that can be taken in that. And it also gives you strength to know that if I'm going to do something, I need to take the steps. That old joke about the guy on a roof who was praying for God to save him while there was a flood happening in his city.
Yeah.
And he was praying, and a boat comes by and he's like, no, God will save me. And then another boat comes by and they're like, get in the boat. He's like, nope, God will save me. The helicopter comes by, grab the rope. And he's like, nope, God will save me. And then he drowns. And in heaven, he's like, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter,
what do you
help
want?
yourself a little, God.
Yeah.
But I think there's a little bit of a danger zone in teaching people to rely too much on the Lord will answer, because they forget they also have to do the work. Yeah. And that's something that I think is a good message for everyone to hear, whatever your beliefs are. And make no mistake, guys, I'm not saying evil doesn't exist. I'm not saying Satan doesn't exist. I'm not saying God doesn't exist. I'm not saying good doesn't exist. You can say what you want. as a priestess, I think Satan exists in a way, but not in the way it's taught in the Bible. The same way I think God exists, but not in the way it's taught in the Bible. It's just a different interpretation, but the energies are similar. I do believe that there is good and evil, and I believe that there are multiple sides to everybody, including deities. So,
Oh, to be really clear, I believe that evil entities do exist. I believe that like demons are a real thing. I believe they're
oh yeah.
man-made, but I believe like stuff like evil entity does exist, black magic does exist, dark
Well, you got possessed in Boulder, Carlin. You better believe they exist.
I know. I literally got possessed by a demon and had to be excised in the middle of downtown Boulder. Like I understand this stuff exists, but I'm just saying like Satan as the conception that like most people have of it, I don't think that exists, and I don't think there's any evil place of fire and brimstone that we go after we die to spend eternity like burning for our sins or something like that. I do think we can go into a place that's more like purgatory, like if we need to do like reflection or like something.
Go have a timeout.
Yeah, go have like a timeout. Like, but it's not like you're not there forever, and it's kind of like it's more to help you and all this stuff. It's not meant to be a punitive thing. And eventually, we all go back to where we all come from, and you know we all always go home at the end of the day, and then we can decide whether or not we want to be born and do it all again.
Yeah, exactly. I think we just go home. One thing I am discovering, though, in my studies with afterlife and stuff, which we're going to have to do another show on. We might do 5 on that. That's a huge topic. But anyway, the is that people who have beliefs that are so strong, it is literally, okay, well, figuratively burned into their souls. When they pass on, they will go wherever they think they're going to go. And even in past life experiences, people say, I saw the fires of hell. And it's like, did you though? For them, that's what it was. Their brain filtered it and went fires of hell. It may not have been, a dimension. They may have walked on the surface of the sun for all we know. Or maybe they needed to see that to scare them. That's what spirit showed them, to scare them back into their shell, to go when they came back and went, okay, I gotta change my shit right now. And but also there was a channeling of, I think it was a channeling of, I'm trying to remember if it was a book I read or it's a long time ago that I heard this. Channeling of the spirit of Jesus, the Christ consciousness. He liked being called Jesus ben Yosef. And I think it might have actually been in the White Book, if I'm not mistaken, which is by, trying to remember the name of the God that's channeled in that. It'll come to me. But they said that he says, I have seen fields of souls of people who lay down pretending to be dead, waiting for Jesus to wake them. And that's because they believe it's so clear. Like I said, it's etched in their soul. So there are planes of reality where people just lay down and wait for Jesus to come get them. And he says, I have tried to tell them rise, but they don't believe me because they've been taught there's never a true Jesus or a true prophet. They don't know what I look like. That Jesus is coming. They've never been taught what that looks like. So they lay there. And that reminds me of a scene from What Dreams May Come, because there was a scene where there's a field of faces where they kind of talk and then they go back to sleep. And it reminds me of that. We got to do that for movie night one night.
That's a great movie. What Dreams May Come is an amazing movie.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
But I mean that's so sad to me, and that's why I really have an aversion to organized religion. And it's not that I don't think that organized religion can't be useful. I think it's a way to have community. I think it's a way to connect with people who have like a similar value system. But when like organized religion makes you I don't know how best to say this, but it gives you a very specific view of the world that does not allow you to fully embrace the divine.
Yeah, I agree. Bot was asking, do they lay there till they die? No, Bot, these are souls that have already passed on, that refuse to ascend or refuse to go back to be reunited with friends, family, to have their life reevaluation, to go into their next life or take a vacation, whatever the hell they want to do. And they refuse to. It's like being a ghost that's haunted. You're stuck in this reality. You're stuck in this plane. And you refuse to go into the light. These people went into the light, went, nope, that's not what the Bible taught me, and went and laid down in this place and waited for Jesus, but they don't know what that looks like. So they don't believe him when he's actually there.
Man, it's just it's really sad. But again, they do this to themselves, and it's like again, that's like where radical responsibility comes in. It's like, you made that choice. And you can make a different choice. Literally every single moment of every single day is an opportunity to make a different choice. But if you're not doing that, that's your fault. It's no one else's fault. It's not Jesus's fault. It's not Satan's fault. It's not your pastor's fault. It is your responsibility.
And think about all of the, and I don't want to go too much into the negativity, because I think that one of the most powerful and valuable things about organized religion is fellowship.
Yeah, I agree.
And having a common purpose and having a supporting group. But also, I'm trying to think where I was going with that. The ability to blame or to give credit, as you said, takes away that responsibility from people to look at themselves, but also think about all of the atrocities done in the name of God. That every team prays God has chosen the Super Bowl winner. I mean, this is the kind of thing that, like, if I'm not saying everybody thinks that, but everybody prays. Both armies pray, both teams pray. People that go to a boxing ring pray. Everybody prays. Everybody thinks God's on their side, and everybody thinks I'm the first church. I'm the only church. My church thought that. Every church thinks they are the chosen people. And it's like, well, I mean, either one of you is right or none of you is right, or maybe all of you is right. Then God is expressing himself in different ways. I don't know, but there's just a lot of things. And so I don't want to say that, that God is evil because he's been used for evil, but it is when you have something that powerful that you can use to motivate the masses, as a lot of dictators and leaders and so forth do, and cult leaders, the whole thing, that you have something that powerful that it can be used very dangerously. And I worry that people they come into the world pre-brainwashed, thinking there's God, there's the devil, and I have to work within this dichotomy, and there's nothing else. And so therefore they have to pick through all the brainwashing and the offerings in the religious supermarket which one they're going to choose and to believe. And sometimes it's very dangerous.
So what do you believe is like the original kind of like origin point of all of these gods?
When
Was
the first
the Anunnaki?
Oh, I was going to go even further back than that. I was going to say when the first man looked up at the stars and went, "What is that?" And the wonder, I think, is where God started. But if you want to go into pantheons, people say it began with aliens, but I think that primitive man believed in deities before aliens came down. And if the aliens used primitive man, going on that theory, to create modern man, then they could be the first deities. And that could have been lost through the millennia, and those names could have been changed. So, yeah.
Man, we have to do an Anunnaki night at some point.
Yes.
Possibly several episodes of the Anunnaki, because that's like actually really interesting.
Yeah, well, a member of our community sent me it had to be the most detailed, most comprehensive, best video I've ever seen, but it's 2 hours long. So very long, very 2 hours long. Yeah. And so we may have to do it in parts unless we want to do like a, 3-hour show, but that's up to us.
We can do a part 1 and a part 2. That's okay. Yeah. That's 2 weeks of content, Jennifer. That's how the internet works. 2 weeks of content.
Excellent. I love it.
Well, speaking of content, we do have a couple videos we want to watch tonight about the origins of Satan. And let's pull up. You want to do the 20-minute one first, right?
I think it's a good place to start. That'll be a good appetizer to get our brain palettes ready for the juggernaut. That is the 48-minute one.
All right.
I hope you have a really good commercial filter too.
We can fast forward.
We'll just skip the little bastards.
Oh man, I already fast forwarded through the first one, so.
Okay, all right, good. Well, forgive us. We don't mean to, but capitalism and all.
Yeah, indeed. So guys, let's learn about the origins of Satan.
Here we go.
I was wondering, what's the devil look like?
George Clooney's character in the classic film Oh Brother, Where Art Thou knows a thing or two about demonology and the nature of Satan.
Well, of course, there are all manner of lesser imps and demons, Pete, but the great Satan himself is red and scaly with a bifurcated tail, and he carries a hay fork.
I'd say this is the old school stereotypical Satan. Red, scaly skin, armed with a pitchfork, popular especially in cartoons, and even making a brief appearance in Star Trek The Next Generation. This version of Satan does not derive from the Bible, and it's not even particularly old relative to the span of Jewish and Christian history. It seems to stem from a confusing mix of artistic traditions from the medieval and Renaissance periods. But in this video, I'm not so much going to excavate the origins of this stereotypical portrayal of Satan, but more the concept of Satan himself.
That was a hot statement
The Christian
right there.
concept that he is a
Seriously.
fallen angel, the ruler of demons, the chief tempter to commit sin, and on the scale of cosmic history, the arch enemy of God. Now, it's important to keep in mind that not even all Christians agree on the concept of Satan, typically hinging on the question whether to view him as an actual entity or as a metaphor of evil and temptation. For the Christians that do consider Satan to be an actual entity, he is usually conceptualized as a fallen angel, a created being who rebelled against God and now leads other fallen angels called demons. We see this view of Satan across most branches of Christianity, including the various Orthodox denominations as well as in official Catholic doctrine. Pope Francis in particular references Satan all the time, specifically saying, "We should not think of the devil as a myth, a representation, a symbol, a figure of speech, or an idea. This mistake would lead us to let down our guard." Protestants are split when it comes to attitudes about Satan. Some denominations tend to interpret him metaphorically, while evangelicals tend to view him as a real entity. And for many Pentecostal Christians, which scholars sometimes categorize under the umbrella of evangelicalism, Satan is a real, active, malevolent threat, playing a significant role in ongoing demonic warfare. Of course, I'm generalizing here at the denominational level. Remember, religions are internally diverse. Even within a single denomination or a single church, you'll find Christians holding different opinions about Satan. Survey data about belief in Satan is sparse, and some of it is contradictory, but one Barna survey from 2009 found that upwards to 40% of American Christians strongly agreed that Satan is not a living being, but is a symbol of evil. So, disbelieving the reality of Satan is by no means a fringe opinion, but today we'll be examining the history of the concept that Satan is a real fallen angel and the arch nemesis of God. As we'll see, Satan has a history, and this concept evolved over time.
I'm gonna lead you down the path that rocks.
Let's start with ancient Israelite religion and the texts of the Hebrew Bible. In the Hebrew Bible, the notion of a singular supreme evil entity and opponent to God is completely absent. The Hebrew word Satan does appear on a few occasions, usually translated as adversary or accuser. But in the earliest sections of the Hebrew Bible, the noun simply refers to human adversaries. For example, in 1 Samuel 29:4, the Philistines refer to King David as a potential adversary, using that same Hebrew noun. But in the later texts in the Hebrew Bible, the concept seems to evolve into some sort of divine job title, kind of like a prosecutor. The most notable biblical reference to this divine prosecutor appears in the book of Job. In the opening chapters of Job, God presides over some sort of divine court or divine council of heavenly beings. A being called the Satan, or the accuser, is present as well. But as I said, the Satan here is not so much a name as it is a job title. The accuser appears as a sort of legal adversary in a divine court. Notably, the Hebrew here refers to this Satan as the Satan, with a direct object marker, suggesting that this is a particular recurring character. This divine adversary tries to find Job guilty of willing to give up his faith and sin against God. The Satan also appears in the book of Zechariah as a divine prosecutor, accusing the high priest Joshua of some sort of crime. The angel of Yahweh basically plays the role of the defendant's lawyer. Notice that neither of these references mirror later Christian conceptions of Satan. The adversary or the accuser in Job is not a prince of demons. He is not a fallen angel, nor is he an absolutely evil antagonist of God. He actually seems to be part of God's divine council. But it's significant that both of these mentions appear in literature composed during or after the Babylonian exile. For those of you that know your ancient Israelite history, the Babylonians sacked Jerusalem in 586 BCE and carried into exile many of the elites from the kingdom of Judah. When the Achaemenid Persian Empire defeated the Babylonians, the Achaemenids allowed them to return to Judea. Nothing before the Babylonian exile comes close to the Christian concept of Satan. No fallen angels that rules other fallen angels, no specific enemy of God, but scholars surmise that something must have happened during this period that sparked this conceptual evolution from lowercase s Satan to the Satan, a specific recurring adversary. And that something might have been Zoroastrianism. So for a period of 2 centuries, from when the Jews returned from the Babylonian exile in 550 BCE until Alexander the Great conquered the region in 323 BCE, Judeans were under Persian control in one form or another. Judea itself remained part of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. So, scholars theorize that the exiled Judean elite must have come into contact with Persian religious functionaries and developed new theologies in light of the new religious ideas that they were hearing from the Persians, specifically Zoroastrian ideas. Zoroastrianism is a very ancient religion still practiced today that originated in ancient Iran. It teaches that the divine being, Ahura Mazda, is a perfectly good being locked in constant battle with a wholly evil being named Angra Mainyu. Now, there are a few problems trying to trace the influence of Zoroastrianism and post-exile Judaism. Scholars that are
Jennifer, I don't mind admitting he's going a little fast for me, and I'm feeling
He
a little bit
does.
lost. He's going a little fast. Can you help me?
Yeah, so he's talking about sorry, I was kind of, because I've seen this video a couple times, so I'm like, okay, fuck, where are we?
that's why I'm asking you. You've had more time to process this information than I have. I just want to make sure we're bringing everyone along.
So he's kind of talking about, first of all, that Satan as referenced as like the devil and things as an incarnate evil spirit isn't actually ever said. And that it is a title, the Satan, or the I believe in Judaism it is Ha-Satan, or Ha-Satan, but same thing. It's a title, an arbitrator, an accuser, and served on the Holy Council of God, and was not meant to be so it's like an office title and not a being that was a fallen angel that was an incarnate of evil.
What was the Holy Council of God?
Huh?
What was the Holy Council of God?
Usually his archangels. And then he had the titular Ha-Satan, or the Satan, who was, like, you could say the one who would look for sin and bring sinful people to God in mention, like this person here, that person there. And so that they were always looking for it.
Okay.
And bringing and accusing. Yeah, and then he brings in Zoroastrianism, which is actually something I'm vaguely familiar with that I really want to study deeper. It's a fascinating religion that is still in practice today. But also there's a lot of Jewish concepts as well that were carried into the concept of Satan.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where he's getting into post-exile Judaism, where the scholars talked about these. But in most, they didn't have like necessarily, there was an evil force or an evil spirit, but Satan was not the name of that. It has become associated with.
Okay. I understand.
Okay, cool.
well-versed in both Jewish apocalyptic texts and Zoroastrian texts are vanishingly rare, so there is not much research on this subject. But generally speaking, scholars of Iranian religion like Albert de Jong argue that we do see clear evidence of Zoroastrian influence in Second Temple period texts, even though we should admit that this term influence here is simplistically covering up what was certainly an incredibly complex process of cultural exchange that took place over the course of centuries. An obvious, though superficial example of this influence is the demon Asmodeus, who appears in the book of Tobit as a particularly wicked demon and the main antagonist to the story. This name, Asmodeus, seems to be etymologically linked to the Zoroastrian being Ashmedeva, a lieutenant of Angra Mainyu. But we see more systematic influence in later Jewish texts insofar as everybody seems to start theologizing about a cosmic struggle between good and evil, specifically a struggle between a spiritual being of goodness versus a...
Is it just human nature, do you think, that we have to categorize things like that? You know what I'm saying?
I think
good,
our need
evil,
to be right,
wrong.
Our need to be right and correct, and also it all relates to power and the power struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm right and you're wrong, I hold the position of power.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think we are in a binary universe. and we deal in opposites, and it's natural to have that. The yin and the yang is an example of that.
Well, yeah, that's fair enough. Like, we learn by contrast, right?
Exactly.
Like, if we've never had a cold shower, we can't really appreciate how awesome a hot shower is.
Exactly.
Okay.
A spiritual being of evil, and texts that rhetorically link these beings to light and dark. The clearest example of Iranian influence appears in the Dead Sea Scrolls. These scrolls preserve a number of extra-biblical texts that introduce a sort of two-spirits theology. For example, the text called the Community Rule, one of the major texts in the Dead Sea Scrolls corpus, says that the God of Israel created the spirits of light and darkness, and founded every action upon them, and established every deed upon their ways. This angel of darkness is responsible for all evil and sin. The Community Rule continues, the angel of darkness leads all the children of righteousness astray. All their sins, iniquities, wickedness, and all their unlawful deeds are caused by his dominion. The Community Rule and other Dead Sea Scrolls refer to this malevolent spirit as Belial, an evil angel who leads an army of other evil angels. So we're starting to see hints of our familiar character Satan. Another text, the War Scroll, describes a final battle between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. The archangel Michael leads the sons of light, while the malevolent angel Belial leads the sons of darkness. So many scholars see this balance of light and dark, Michael and Belial, good and evil, as clear evidence of Zoroastrian influence among some Jewish sectarian groups during the Second Temple period. Now, some scholars go even further and specifically link these ideas to a Zoroastrian sect called the Zervanites, who believed, among other things, that the two spirits, Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu, were children of a supreme entity.
Can we just, like, take a pause for a second and talk about, like, how incredible it actually is that we are in a world where we're still playing out ideas that are thousands of years old. These are thousands of years old.
There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah. But it's actually scary when it's like you understand, like, okay, like literally every dynamic we're experiencing right now, like this has just been the same thing. It's been the same story that's been repeated over and over and over and over and over, like literally all throughout history. It's like, this is what we are damned to experience in this lifetime on Earth.
Until you can break the cycle, you will repeat the cycle.
Yo, that's some shit. That's some shit, Jennifer. Like, it is our job here to break the cycle of thousands of years of human bullshit and feuding and nonsense and ridiculousness and tribalism.
A lot of people say that is what the fourth dimensional shift is all about. Yeah. That we're going into an age, a new age of human enlightenment, that will be able to finally break the cycle of dichotomy and power. The problem is not enough people have gotten this enlightened, so-called information. So, and also it's hard to trust your messengers anymore. Like who's enlightened? Like, oh, well, I'm enlightened, so therefore I'm going to tell you how to become enlightened. You know how many people like suicide because of that? Because of the drinking the punch and the Kool-Aid? Like what? It's that's why it needs to be an individual thing. And a lot of people who I consider to be trustworthy teachers are people who do not tell you how to do it or what to do, but they give you guidelines and let you evolve on your own. You will find that a lot of people come to conclusions on their own without interacting with other people, and those are the ones who are they've evolved enough to really get the message and break that cycle. But the cycle of dichotomic power is very, very, because we are in a binary universe. But until we realize we don't have to struggle, we can still have dichotomy and binary without struggling and fighting. But right now, there's too much money to be made from the struggle.
That's crazy. I mean, and honestly, it's like, it shows you just how unevolved we are as like a species.
I think also, but I think we could have been a lot further along if certain men in power would quit destroying the freaking knowledge.
Yeah, that's true.
All of the lying campaigns, there have been, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at here with Satan a little bit, is that was kind of in my mind from what I'm learning was a bit of a smear campaign against a bunch of pagan deities because they needed somebody to blame. And that's one of the things I find interesting about all the research I'm doing, but also with people who are struggling with this, there's always going to be someone in power who's going to benefit and find a way to make a buck off of it, whether it's a church, whether it's a preacher, whatever it is. And even if it's just somebody manipulating our stocks or our housing market or our farms or whatever it is, if they can make a buck off of it, and get more powerful, they will take our knowledge away, from burning Alexandria all the way to fucking with the internet, and now limiting our free speech and what we can find on the internet, so-called secret hidden videos that you're not supposed to watch anymore. Wink, wink. So, I mean, this kind of thing, this has always been the case, because there are always men who want control.
Yeah, the key word there is men.
Definitely. No women are at fault for this. No, we're totally pure.
Well, no, no. I was talking about this earlier in the other video that I did. It's like all these people who want to blame women for everything, and in this video, they actually, like, this guy did actually blame women for the rise of leftism in the United States. And I was like, hang on a second, asshole. Let's do an inventory of people who were in the Frankfurt School. Oh wait, they were all men.
Oh dear.
There were zero women.
The thing that is played upon that is not untrue about women is we are way more compassionate.
Yeah.
And so that's how they rope a lot of us. And there's more female Democrats, I think, than male Democrats. And a lot of this because they play on their compassion. Don't you want to help people and be nice to people and have everybody live their best lives? Oh, yes, I do. So that's why. Yeah, I mean, but I don't think we're at fault for any of this shit. Everybody's equally at fault here.
And that's kind of the point. That's what I said. I was like, listen, there are dumb men and there are dumb women. There are smart men and there are smart women. There are men that are good leaders. There are women that are good leaders. There are men that are shitty leaders. There are women that are shitty leaders. Can we just stop with this all men are one thing, all women are the other thing? And it's kind of like, okay, yeah, women are more compassionate and that's how they get roped into some of this stuff. But on the same token, you can say that, oh shit, hang on, something just popped on my screen. On the same token, you can say that one of the reasons that all the documents have been destroyed are because men lack compassion and they lack the foresight to know that, like, hey, maybe we're going to need this later, and then they make the mistake of destroying something that, quite frankly, would be really useful right about now.
The early Christian church finished off the burning of Alexandria, of the library.
Right.
It started with the Christians? I'm trying to remember. There was a movie I watched that was about that, but it was historically accurate. But they're the ones, because they didn't want that. They didn't want people straying from the beliefs that they said they were right. We're right. You're wrong. We're getting rid of all this knowledge because it's bullshit and it's against God. And we probably would be traveling interdimensionally to other freaking galaxies by now if we could have kept that library.
Yeah. And who did that? Men. Just saying. Men.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Or prime mover called Zervan, since the Dead Sea Scrolls apparently believed that the God of Israel still presided over these two spirits of light and dark. But the Dead Sea Scrolls are not alone. In even earlier apocalyptic texts, the concept of a singularly evil angelic character starts to come into focus, especially in the text 1st Enoch. 1st Enoch is a big expansion of a story in Genesis chapter 6 about angelic beings called the children of God seducing human women who then give birth to the Nephilim, which may come from the Hebrew verbal root to fall. These were devious angels who taught humans all sorts of evil things like magic, astrology, and war. The Book of Enoch has various names for a bad guy in chief leading these angels, but it's not Satan or Belial. The chief bad guy in the earliest section of Enoch, called the Book of the Watchers, is confusingly called Shemihaza or Asael. Shemihaza is opposed by the archangel Michael, Asael is opposed by the archangel Raphael, but in another section, the four archangels seem to associate Shemihaza with Asael and suggest that God has given him authority. In another section of 1st Enoch, the so-called dream vision, the angels appear as stars, and Asael is the first to fall. So here we're seeing the idea of evil angels literally falling from the heavens. The word Satan does appear in 1st Enoch, but it does not seem to be a specific name. One section uses the word Satans as a classification of fallen angel. Enoch says that he heard the voice of an archangel driving away the Satans. Other verses use the word Satan as a singular proper noun, but scholars debate whether we should simply translate this as the adversary and not as a specific name. This seems to be the case in the Book of Jubilees, which is another apocalyptic text that expands on the Book of Genesis. Jubilees introduces the character Mastema, who is cast as the leader of demons and who is referred to as the Satan. Though, again, this is more of a title and not so much a proper name, and seems to be closer to the character of the Satan in Job as a tester or accuser. So, to summarize, an evil leader of fallen angels or evil spirits in general becomes a recurring character in Second Temple apocalyptic texts. Shemihaza, Asael, Belial, Mastema, the Satan. And it's out of this cultural context that the early Jesus movement emerged. So, let's turn now to the New Testament. Unlike the Dead Sea Scrolls, the name Belial is rare in the New Testament. The Apostle Paul mentions Belial to refer to the evil antithesis to Christ, but generally speaking, the New Testament refers to the chief adversary of God by the word Satan, or by the Greek word diabolos, which is a direct translation of the Hebrew word Satan, and also the origin of English words diabolic and devil. Satan in the New Testament continues in his role as a prosecutor or tester of some sort. So for example, when he tests Jesus in the desert. But he also tempts people to sin, like when he tempts Judas Iscariot to betray Jesus. Other early Christians also apparently attributed to Satan the power to cause illness and death. And he is often referred to as the Archon, or ruler of the demons. But as we've seen from throughout this video, all of these attributions derive not from the Hebrew Bible, but from the same theological streams of thought that we see in 1 Enoch's Asael, the Dead Sea Scrolls' Belial, and the Book of Jubilees' Mastema. Historically, Christians interpret stories in the Hebrew Bible through the lens of this New Testament version of Satan, like the idea that the snake that tempted Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden must be Satan, or that an oracle condemning the Babylonian king in the book of Isaiah refers to the origins of Satan himself. The prophet laments, "How you are fallen from heaven, O day star, son of dawn." This word, day star or morning star, which is a reference to the planet Venus, was translated as the word Lucifer in the Latin Vulgate translations of the Bible, and it became a name for Satan. But the prophet here is referring to an earthly ruler. My aim in this video was not to debunk Christian theology. My aim in this video was instead to challenge us to think historically. I was a history major back in college before my foray into religious studies, and I was taught the 5 C's of historical thinking, a method for how we as students of history should approach events, concepts, or people in the past. The 5 C's are change over time, context, causality, complexity, and contingency. Change over time is not complicated. It's a reminder that even if a name like Satan appears in a 6th century text like Job and a 1st century CE document like the Gospel of Matthew, we should check ourselves, remind ourselves that things change over time. The concept of Satan in these 2 documents are separated by half a millennium, and almost certainly changed during those 2 time periods. The 2nd C is context, which reminds us that concepts like Satan evolved within an interrelated network of societal, cultural, and political influences. In the case of Satan, he seems to have evolved in the context of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, and later the Hellenized Empire of Alexander the Great. So we should look to the conditions of these 2 historical and cultural contexts when analyzing Satan. Then we have causality and complexity. Figuring out causality is difficult because, as the historians Thomas Andrews and Flannery Burke write, scientists can repeat experiments again and again to figure out cause and effect. But for historians, the past has already happened. We can't really repeat our experiments to figure out what caused what effect. We can argue that Zoroastrianism influenced the evolution of Satan, but we can't really pin down the precise cause and effect. Who was the first Zoroastrian priest to sit down with an exiled Israelite and debate about the nature of good and evil? We don't have access to that sort of data. So in order to figure out causality, we need to rely on logic and probability rooted in the study of primary source documents. But then there is complexity. Complexity is the reminder that everything has multiple factors. It would be way too simplistic to say Zoroastrianism caused the concept of Satan, because reality is always messier and more complicated than that. And finally, contingency. Probably the most difficult concept in the 5C framework. To argue that history is contingent is to claim that every historical outcome depends upon a number of prior conditions. This is a reminder that everything is connected. The Babylonians conquered the kingdom of Judah, then they carried them into exile, then the Achaemenids conquered the Babylonians, and then they allowed the Judeans to return. It is a string of contingent events stemming from prior conditions, and changing any one of those prior conditions might have led to a completely different future. Contingency is a corrective for the historical fallacy of teleology, the notion that history is headed toward a predetermined destination. It was very in vogue in the early 20th century for historians to write teleological histories of Christianity, that the modern brand of Christianity that we know was destined to prevail as a new religion over the old paganism of the Roman Empire. When in reality, if we were to change one condition or another in this string of contingent events, maybe a completely different sect of Christianity would have prevailed, like the sect of Christianity that interpreted the snake in the Garden of Eden as the good guy. So when we approach any concept in any religion, remember to apply the 5C framework to help us think historically about religion. Thanks again to NordVPN
this guy, I like, he's got to slow down. He's got, I can't. So what are the big takeaways from this video, Jennifer?
Well, that there are many origins for where Satan came from, and also he kind of threw out some Bible verses there. And I think the next video is going to go into more detail on that. But I think honestly, what you're looking at is kind of again the lineage of a name and the evolution of an idea. So you have the angel of darkness somehow transmuting into Satan, that has become his name. But it was a vague concept in the beginning. It wasn't this entity's name is blah, blah, blah. And notice, like, all angel names end with El, El meaning light or God, and Lucifer does not. Satan does not. So it's interesting to me that to me even shows that it could be even more so a title and not a name. The name of the arbiter is never given. So we don't know who that is. Maybe it was a rotational position. Maybe they had a vote. I don't friggin' know. Nobody knows. But it's definitely showing that I think the big takeaway is question all things. Look at your context. Look at the history of the society. The needs of the society also can dictate what deities are focused on.
That makes sense.
So yeah. But I think as far as he goes, I just really kind of liked how he brought in a lot of knowledge and factoids and things from different areas. And to me, that was a good warm up, because if you thought that went quickly, wait till the next one's going to blow your melon.
Well, let's see. Let's see what this next one is. I mean, it was definitely good to think about, like, the development. I just wish he would, like, slow down a little bit. Maybe that's just, like, my preference with my teaching style. Like, slow down. Just, like, make sure people understand stuff. Just take a minute. You can breathe.
There's a couple things I wanted to address. There was a question in the chat by Phoenix who said, does Jennifer believe that we should abide by the rules of the managers or the archons? No, I don't think you, because we don't exactly know what those are. They have changed so much over time. And honestly, like, I don't know whose rules are what anymore, and if they're even real, you know? So if we want to talk about different deities and things, what they didn't ask for was, they didn't necessarily set out rules. They set out things that would either curry their favor or not. So like, if you wanted to curry the favor of Aphrodite, you would go to her temple and pray and leave offerings, burn incense, whatever. So that way you could get that. But there's no rules from any of the deities that do these things and that's how you live your life. That didn't come across, and that never happened until monotheism. Monotheism went, here's the rules. But in polytheism, it's more of they're more guidelines.
It was like working with the energy.
Yes, it is. It's what do you need in your life? What can you do to boost that energy and in that life to fulfill that need? I also want to kind of touch on that even in polytheism, the most powerful gods of those pantheons their names were also used to wage war. So I felt like maybe I just blamed the Christians for using God to do terrible things. A lot polytheists did the same thing. Whoever wants to convince people is going to use the biggest God name there is to get the people to rally behind them. So I didn't want to be too hypercritical in that direction. And the last thing is that I want people to kind of keep in mind is the snake. Can people say Satan is the serpent? Then there's even a scripture, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. That I don't think the serpent was the bad guy. And I kind of think he was more of a benevolent.
The Kundalini.
Well, that's an energy in Hindi energy work, yes. But in Eden, it was more of a benevolent entity trying to help Adam and Eve evolve, if we want to go the Adam and Eve route. But the temptation was laid out by the creator deity, but I'm not sure that in that particular story the creator deity was the good guy, or even that the creator deity. There's some interpretations that I've read where the creator, the light being, became the serpent to talk to them directly in the form of a creature that they could relate to, because they saw it all the time. And it was the malevolent, the darkness that said, don't eat that fruit. You'll surely die, which I think is like the first lie ever told. And if you look at it in the Christian context, it is God. If God is saying that, then God told the first lie. And that goes directly against doctrine. God can't lie. He's incapable of lying. But indeed, he told the first lie, because as soon as they ate that fruit, they didn't die. The serpent was right. So was it God that came into the serpent and people's wires just got crossed? Or there was another one I heard, that the serpent itself was the Christ consciousness, that it was the one that later became Jesus that came down to help them. And it was never addressed who lied to them.
You know, someone, I think it was either a Christian or a Catholic that was telling me this. They said that if Eve had never eaten the apple, then they would have lived forever. And that's what they meant when they said die. It's like, it wasn't you're dying immediately. It was that you were going to die eventually, because if it hadn't happened, you would have lived forever. And I'm like,
in ignorance.
Yeah.
So would you rather live forever in ignorance and bliss, or would you rather know the difference between, to have the wisdom of the universe and know the difference between good and evil, and evolve and have the opportunity for enlightenment? But you have to then, die, come back, reincarnation cycle. It could have been an old interpretation of that as well.
Well, I mean, and that's the other thing. It's like, do we ever really die, or does the energy just change forms? It's kind of like, when you look at it like that way too, because it's like, and is it even preferable to live eternity in a human form?
Well, God, it sounds awfully boring, especially when you're just like lollygagging in a beautiful place forever. At some point, they got bored enough to try the tree.
Yeah.
I mean,
like in any human story, it's like, it's a part of the human experience to encounter challenges and to overcome those challenges. Like in literally every great story, that's what it is. Like story, like you're a writer, you teach this. Like stories have an arc. And it's not like, hey, we woke up today and we were happy and everything is perfect, and like that's the same story you tell that's a really boring story.
The end. Yay. Yeah. Everything never is the same and nothing changed. The end. I think The Matrix encapsulates this idea beautifully when Agent Smith is saying that the first Matrix was a paradise. It was beautiful, and there was no suffering and no pain. And he says people got bored and they began to take their own lives. He says whole crops, and he means of people, were lost. But it was with challenge and suffering and something to overcome and something to work on and growth and something to be proud of. It's not just people go, why do we need to suffer? It's not the suffering. It's the pride and the accomplishment of overcoming that makes that so worthy. The challenge. Climbing a mountain is going to hurt your legs because they're going to get tired. They're going to cramp up. It's going to be difficult. But man, when you get to that summit, it is amazing. Mm-hmm. And then you get to keep that with you, and it's fabulous. So I think that was kind of the perfect encapsulation of it. And perhaps that is what the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent is meant to give us. Not so much about women are sinful, horrible creatures and men are stupid and dumb and they, so just saying.
Man. All right, let's get into this second video.
Yes.
Because this one's a little bit longer.
Yeah, buckle up.
So this is called How Satan Became Lucifer.
Yeah.
Let's see.
War broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled down to the earth, and his angels with him. This was written at the end of the 1st century and was included in the canon of the New Testament. The ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, cast down from heaven. What does this mean, and how did we get here? Let's go back to the beginning. The oldest text that mentions the name Satan is from the book of Job. And in this text, Satan is not this divine opposition underworld king that he's later depicted in late antiquity by both Jews and Christians and Muslims. But instead, he's more of a district attorney for El Jehovah.
You know what's interesting about the Devil Tarot card that people might not know if they don't know this stuff off the top of their head is like the Devil Tarot card is basically like a man and a woman and they're naked and they're kind of chained to this altar that the devil is sitting on. But like they're not really trapped because the chains are loose enough so that if they want to, they could literally just take them off and leave.
It depends on the deck. So yes, I've seen that version. I've also seen just a devil, but there's always chains and there's always a choice. And the devil doesn't mean the devil and it's evil and it's going to get you. It's talking about choice. It's talking about that. Also, sometimes your sense of play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a very sexual card too. Yeah, it's a BDSM card.
And he's talking to El Jehovah about Job and why Job worships him, because he has so much wealth. And if you take away his wealth, then he won't worship you. And anyways, long story short, this old depiction of Satan is not at all in line with the Satan that we just heard from in Revelation. In fact, the serpent in the garden is never mentioned as being the same thing as Satan. If the serpent in the garden was cast out of Eden along with Adam and Eve, then there's no way he can possibly be in the later scene for Job, which makes no sense. So how do we get from Satan as some district attorney character who's aligning himself with the sons of God, and the serpent character who is cast out of paradise with Adam and Eve? And how do we get from those to being two separate things to this depiction of a war breaking out where the great dragon, ancient serpent called the devil or Satan is cast down? Where is Lucifer in all of this? Ancient serpent. The Egyptian Book of the Dead dates back to the second millennium
God, the Book of the Dead.
BCE, before the collapse of the Bronze Age. There is a text titled "The Chapter of the Making of the Transformation into the Serpent Seta." The Chancellor-in-Chief, Nu, triumphant, says, "I am the serpent Seta, whose years are many. I die and I am born again each day.
Okay, stop there.
I am the serpent Seta."
Go ahead.
One thing I want people to understand is in paganism and symbology, the symbol of the serpent does reflect and represent immortality and healing because of how it sheds its skin. So the molting process, it is born anew. It looks like it dies. It casts its old skin off and is born anew. And is vulnerable for a period of time, like a newborn is, until its new skin becomes tough. And then it can go about. And so every time it grows, it sheds its skin. There are other reptiles and amphibians that can regrow tails and limbs, and even part of their organs can regrow them. That is also a part of that mythos. But, and you'll know what is that called? Is it the Sarducus? Hive mind, the staff with the serpents around it that is for medicine.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I've almost got the word. I haven't quite got it. It's in here somewhere and rumbling around. But yeah, somebody type it in the chat so I know what it is. But that is also, the snake is the symbol of healing because of that old. And I remember when I was a burgeoning youngling and Christian, I was like, because my mom had a pin. My mother's a master nurse, and I was like, Mom, that's you've got the serpent on your lapel. And she's like, oh, well, in Greek mythology, it meant, healing. It was the staff of, and she told me about the myth. And that's one of the things that spurred me to get interested in what different symbols mean. Don't always assume it's caduceus. Thank you, Phoenix. I told you I was so close. Yeah, so that's one of the things that kind of got me interested in learning origins about things. And also, I just want to shout out to Paul Aldridge. Don't be quiet. Please share your opinions. I'm so interested. I've been watching your comments. You're like, I'll be quiet. Don't be quiet. Say all the things. I'm interested in everything. So please do say things. It's very cool. Never be shy, everybody. We're here to share our knowledge. We're not here to say anybody is right or wrong. We are here to share what we know so we can gain a greater understanding of this existence.
I agree. Let's continue.
Yes.
Which dwelleth in the uttermost parts of the earth. I die, and I am born again, and I renew myself, and I grow young each day. You might actually be surprised to discover that this is not the oldest for the image of this serpent to be connected with rebirth, immortality, healing. This is an idea that traces itself back to the Bronze Age Black Sea region. The Pelasgians inhabit the world of Greece, Rome, Northern Africa after the collapse of the Bronze Age. These myths are retold in the stories of Medea. The Draconess of Medea were a pair of serpents which drew the flying chariot of the witch Medea. She summoned them to carry her away.
Hang on, we got a super chat from Mac B. Mac B says there's a reference to the serpent on the staff with Moses, and those who look at the serpent are healed from snake bites in the Bible. Jennifer, are you muted?
I did. Sorry. Do you know what is so hilarious about that, Mac? Is I do have a friend with me today who's from out of town, and he just gave me this message talking about the serpent and the Moses in the desert with the staff, and I'm telling you, divine intervention just happened. That was crazy. I love that. Yes, and why not? Because nothing has one origin. It could have been Moses was the originator. It could have been the Greek. It could have been both. Who knows? One could be hopscotching the other. We don't know. But you know what? Both are true. So let it be. Let it both be true.
There are no coincidences.
There aren't.
Nope.
From Corinth, following the murder of King Creon, his daughter, Glauce, and her children by Jason. Diodorus of Sicily says that she was posing as a priest of Artemis. Artemis has the title Luciferia. She's also the brother of Apollo, who is the brilliant one, the light bringer, and god of music, poetry, beauty, prophecy. Diodorus says, she, Medea, posing as a priestess of Artemis, declared to King Pelias that Artemis, riding through the air upon a chariot drawn by Draconess, had flown in the air over many parts of the inhabited earth, and had chosen the realm of the most pious king in all the world for the establishment of her own worship and for honors, which she be forever and ever. By means of certain drugs, Medea caused shapes of Dracones to appear, which she declared had brought the goddess through the air from the Hyperboreans to make her stay with Pelias. Hyperboreans are a mythical race of people from the land of the Scythia. This signifies this is an ancient myth brought to the Greeks from previous time. You also have the god Set, an Egyptian deity, identified with Typhon. He is the god of deserts, storms, disorder, violence, and foreigners. Set originally had a positive role where he accompanies Ra on his bark to repel Apep, the serpent of chaos. However, during the Intermediate Dynasty, Set's role would drastically change as he became identified with the storm god Typhon. He became the devil. Which brings us to Angramanu, another Middle Eastern deity, also known as Ahriman, who is called the devil as well. He is seen as the evil god in the cosmology of Zoroastrianism. He is just as powerful as the good god of light, Ahura Mazda. In the Zen Vesta, Zoroaster is traveling through the desert, once again set in the desert, but Angramanu rushes up on him, and Angramanu asks Zoroaster to give up the worship of Ahura Mazda and to worship him, and that if he worships him, he will be given all the boons of the world, the great boon to rule all the nations. Zoroaster declines and begins to chant in honor of Ahura Mazda, and Angramanu is banished by these chants. The story seems very familiar to the Gospel of Matthew, when Jesus is in the desert and is tempted by the devil in the wilderness. Zoroastrianism brings this divide in the world of mythology between good gods and bad gods, the devil and the god. This divide is seen all throughout the world. In Hinduism, you have the Devas and the Asuras. In Greek mythology, you have Olympians and Titans, which brings us to Saturn. These ideas go back to the Sumerians with Enlil and Enki. Enlil, who wants to flood the world, he's tired of human beings, is betrayed by Enki, who rather tells humans how to survive the wrath of Enlil. This story is reflected in both Noah's Ark, but also Deucalion being told by Prometheus to build an ark because Zeus is going to flood the world. This brings us to the myth of Saturn. And I mentioned Medea and the serpents as symbols of healing and rebirth and immortality. This was the world of the Saturnian Bronze Age. These myths are retold by Hesiod and Homer. Saturn's name is derived from Satas, meaning sowing. And in late antiquity, Saturn would become synchronized with a number of deities. Cicero says that Saturn represents...
So, I'm not all up on symbology with some things, but like I distinctly remember. So when I was like planning my my tattoo, which is like a universe on my arm, like whatever. Like so, the original design for this planet right here, it was originally going to be Saturn. And then Joshua and I talked about it, and I was like, and Joshua was like, Carlin, that means constriction, or like, it means like constriction or something. And I was like, I don't want to put that on my arm forever. And so then we changed it to the moon.
Oh, well, I'm not familiar with it as a symbol of constriction. Saturn is my ruling planet. It is Kronos, the god of time.
Oh, that's because you're a Capricorn.
Well, and yeah, and I like have a horrible relationship with time because
I mean, there are good and bad aspects of everything, Jennifer, I guess.
I know. I live in my own time zone. It's true, but yeah, I don't know the constriction. However, the thing about it is he is the ultimate.
Wait, Capricorn is a goat, like the devil. Saturn, Capricorn, goat, devil. I'm just saying.
You caught me so off guard with that. I have nothing. I have no pithy comeback at all.
I'm
fine. I'm evil. Whatever. Blame me. Blame the goat.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that like you can see like how the symbology plays together. I'm not suggesting you're particularly the devil.
Goat also stands for greatest of all time, Carlin.
Well, fine.
So there.
Fine.
Represent the power which maintains the cyclic course of times and seasons. This is the sense that the Greek name of the god bears, for he is called Cronus, which is the same as Chronos or time. Saturn, for his part, got his name because he was sated with years. He is the son of heaven who kills his father Aranos to take on the throne and become the king of the universe. After being told by an oracle that his son would usurp him, the the same way he usurps his father,
That's a disturbing
he
picture.
begins to eat
That's
his
Zeus
children
eating his
so that
children.
none of them
I'm not Zeus. That's
could ever
Kronos eating his
usurp
children.
him.
That's crazy.
Hesiod's Theogony states
Eats his
Kronos,
children.
after castrating his father
Oh my
Uranus,
god!
becomes the supreme
Medieval
ruler
art,
of the
y'all.
cosmos and weds his sister Rhea, by whom he
Weds
begets
his
3 daughters
sister.
and 3 sons: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. And lastly, wise Zeus, the youngest of the 6. He swallows each child as soon as they are born, having received a prophecy from his parents Gaia and Uranos, that one of his children is destined to one day overthrow him as his father. This causes Rhea increasing grief, and upon becoming pregnant with her 6th child, Zeus, she approaches her parents Gaia and Uranos, seeking a plan to save her child and bring retribution to Kronos. Following her parents' instructions, she travels to Lyctus in Crete, where she gives birth to Zeus, handing the newborn child over to Gaia for her raise, and Gaia takes him to a cave on Mount Aegeon. Rhea then gives to Cronus, in the place of the child, a
Can
stone
I interrupt real quick?
wrapped in swaddling clothes.
Go ahead.
So you have originally the original deities, and this is interesting because it's kind of in the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. The original deities were light and darkness.
Mm-hmm.
They beget heaven and earth. Then
Okay.
heaven and earth begat the aspects of humanity, which are represented in the first 6 Greek pantheon gods. This also follows creation story in a way. God created light, God created the heavens and the earth, then God created all the creatures and everything. So earth divided from the sea, all the things. So, but it's interesting how these ideas have been through time since way before the Bible was a thing, before the scrolls were written, before anything was written. These concepts were there. And again, when you asked me where did it start, and I immediately thought of the first men, humans looking up and being in awe of what's above them and what's below them. And that is, to me, the origin of deity in the mind of humanity.
All right.
I feel huge. My brain is huge.
No, I can understand that. Cool.
Which he promptly swallows, unaware that it isn't his son.
Wait, he just swallowed a rock wrapped in a blanket? What an idiot. See, another thing, man
Men are dumb.
doesn't even bother to look at what he's eating, just swallows it.
And he's supposed to be the god of time.
Yep.
He's supposed to be all like knowing of future and past and everything, and he ate a rock.
Tricked
even
by
that
a
guy was
woman
done.
to eat
oh,
a
yeah.
rock.
Who was very smart woman.
Yeah.
What does this have to do with Satan and the devil, Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus? All 3 of them would become rulers of a certain realm. Hades is the king of the underworld, Poseidon, the king of the sea, and Zeus, the king of the heavens, as he usurps Saturn. Saturn, however, would go on to rule a specific part of the underworld
I see it.
known as Elysium. This is the special part of Hades for people who attained a specific immortality from transmigration of the soul. So Saturn becomes the ruler and king of Hades with his son Hades, also known as Pluto. In the religion of Orphism, these gods are heavily invoked in the hymns. Revelation 20:13 says, "And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne. And there were open books, and one of them was the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their deeds, as recorded in the books. Then the sea gave up its dead, and then death and Hades gave up their dead. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire." These are pagan gods that are invoked in the Orphic hymns being casted into the lake of fire in Revelation, the same book that mentions the great serpent, Satan, being cast down as well. This is there for a reason.
Okay, so the
Hades,
lake
or
of
Pluto,
fire.
the Greek
Hang
underworld
on.
god, as I've mentioned.
Go ahead.
The lake of fire is what my church that I went to believed in. We didn't believe in hell.
All right.
Yep. So lake of fire, because that's how it is said in the Bible. It's not said as hell. Hell is never mentioned. Nobody even says. They might have said something about a place of eternal torment, but they said, oh, well, they're referring to the lake of fire, because in Revelations it talks about 3 resurrections. The first resurrections are the ones who are baptized and believers in God. The second resurrection is for people who get a second chance to prove their love and through devotion and baptism to God. And then the third resurrection is where he takes the people who deny God and they fuck off to the lake of fire and they are destroyed forever.
So you just get thrown into a lake of fire and that's it?
He resurrects you just to throw your ass into the fire. Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty fucked up.
I know.
So you're already dead. And
Yeah.
then he brings you back to life just to throw you into the lake of fire so you die again.
Just to go, I was right.
That seems like a good and benevolent God, Jennifer. That definitely seems like Christ's love to me.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything bad. Well, but God is a God of wrath. He said it himself. He called himself a God of wrath. And then that kind of got glazed over in the New Testament, but he kind of showed up again in Revelations there. But I grew up thinking all of my friends were going to be in the second resurrection, that I would be in the first resurrection. I would get to live in God's kingdom for 1,000 years. My friends would have to go through the tribulation, suffer, and die. And then 1,000 years later, they would get resurrected, and they would get a chance to love God and know that I was right this whole time because it's all about me. And then, and any of my friends who were atheists or weren't sure, they would get a chance, but the atheists definitely not. People who don't think God exists, they just get resurrected so they can go burn.
Wow.
They have the same treatment as Satan and his angels, if you will.
I have thoughts on that, but I'm going to keep them to myself for the moment.
But this is why I don't like believing men's interpretation of the Bible.
It's like one of those things where I understand you were like raised in a Christian cult, but like it's hard for me to understand how people believe this stuff. And maybe it's just because like I really wasn't raised with religion at all. My parents never imposed religion on me in any way. And so like I'm just like I don't understand how that, but I mean I guess it makes sense if you're raised that way, but it's just like I'm like you really thought I was going to get thrown into a lake of fire? Like what the fuck?
Burn, baby, burn. Yeah.
Or it's even like all these people that are like they really do believe that like I mean even as simple as like there is heaven and there is hell, and if you're good you're going to go to heaven, and if you're bad you're going to go to hell, and you're going to burn in fire and brimstone for the rest of eternity. I'm like you really believe that? But they really do. And it's like they're really like when especially like some of the gripers do this, they're like, Carlin, we just don't want you to go to hell. I'm like, okay,
that's nice.
I appreciate that. That's very nice. And it's just like I don't want to I don't know how to say like I don't think I'm going to hell because I don't think hell doesn't exist. But it's very nice of you to worry about me. Thank you.
People go, can I pray for you? I'm like, well, please.
Yeah,
please
go
pray
ahead.
for me. Pray for my soul. All you want. I love that you're sending me happy, good, loving energy. If you want to do that, great. If you don't want me to go to hell, don't want me to go to hell. Guess what? My relationship with God is my own.
Yeah.
And he loves me just as much as he loves you. It's going to be fine. Trust me. He has a plan for all of us. It'll be okay.
It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Often conflated with Plutos, the god of wealth. Perhaps this is the reason why Satan in the desert is always offering wealth, always tempting with wealth. However, the god Pater, the Roman underworld god equivalent of Pluto, who's often synced with Bacchus, father of the riches, Cicero calls him. He has the power to possess and give spirits to those who drink the wine in the ceremonies. In Dante's Divine Comedy, there is a location known as the City of Dis, which comprises Lower Hell. This is a play on the father Pater. He is also associated with Jupiter. This underworld god is the king of all the pagan gods. Father Liber in the Roman religion, the free father, the god of wine, male fertility, and freedom. is the Roman equivalent of Dionysus and Bacchus. And after the spread of Hellenism, in fact, their mythologies would become one and the same. As Hellenism was spreading west, the conservatives from the old Etruscan religion rejected Bacchus. There was a decree laid out in the Senate, the suppression of Bacchus worship in 186 BCE. Shortly after the end of the Second Punic War, Livy tells us that a Bacchanalia's introduction by a foreign soothsayer, a Greek mean condition, a low operator of sacrifices. The cult spread in secret, like a plague. The lower classes, plebs, women, the young, morally weak and effeminate males are particularly susceptible. All such persons, fickle, uneducated minds, but even Rome's elite are not immune. The Bacchanalia's priestesses urge their deluded flock to break all social and sexual boundaries, even to visit ritual murder on those who oppose them or betray their secrets. But a loyal servant reveals all to a shocked Senate, whose quick thinking, wise actions, and piety save Rome from the divine wrath and disaster it would otherwise have suffered. Notice the demonization of Bacchus worship already happening in Rome in the 2nd century BCE. According to James Fraser, Bacchus, who's also identified with Osiris from Egypt, is depicted as a goat, like Pan. He's also depicted as a bull with horns. Here we have the idea of an evil horned god, who's none other than Bacchus himself. In Egypt, he is the son of Ammon, who's also king of the universe, like Father Liber, and Dis Pater in Rome. He's depicted with horns, and he's the direct rival of Typhon. Ovid's Metamorphosis, written in the 1st century BCE, relays exactly this scene. He says, how Typhon, issuing from Earth's lowest depths, struck terror in those heavenly hearts, and they all turned their backs and fled until they found refuge in Egypt and the seven-mouthed Nile. She told how earth-born Typhon, even there, pursued them, and the gods concealed themselves in spurious shapes, and Jove became a ram. Lord of the herd, she said. And so today, the great Libyan Ammons shone with curling horns. Phobos, Apollo, hid as a raven. Bacchus, a goat. Phoebe, a cat. Juno, a snow-white cow. Venus, a fish. And Mercury, an ibis. The muse Calliope,
Hang on.
who is the mother of Orpheus.
You know what I especially love about all this old stuff, Jennifer?
What?
Is that none of the women are skinny in it.
I know, Rubenesque, baby.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yes. Venus as the fish. Now, this is interesting because it goes into some Christ symbolism there. That, of course, he had the fish is like the symbol people put on their cars and all the things. Some say it was because he was a fisherman of men. Some say it was because he was a Pisces. Some say it was because Jesus was the true morning star, Venus, who turned into the fish.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the fish seems to, I mean, he's very fishy. Jesus says you got to watch him.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's symbology around the fish for him too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how some of that that symbolism can go either way. But yeah, anyway, I just had to pipe up because I felt like we needed a moment. There's a lot to take in here.
There is a lot to take in. I'm trying to process all of it. See, people think because I'm so quick on some of the socialism streams that I process all information quickly, and like it's just not true. Like I have to be familiar with something, otherwise I have to think about it.
Well, that's like how you are with all the socialism speak and stuff. That's how I am with all these myths and all these. I'm listening, it's going and it's coming at me quickly, but I'm getting all of the references because I studied a lot of this shit. So yeah,
This is why you're on the show, Jennifer, so you can explain this to all of us.
Oh, I thought it was because I was just so damn charming.
It's because you excised me in Colorado. I was like, she keeps the evil spirits at bay.
Summon.
Tells this tale, just as she tells of the rape of Persephone. And in the rape of Persephone, Hades, the underworld god, as I've introduced to you, comes up in a chasm and takes down Persephone, daughter of Demeter. And as she's brought down into the underworld, she takes a bite of the pomegranate. And because of this, she is not allowed to leave. And she becomes the queen of the underworld, as married to Hades, otherwise known as Father Dis. The myths of Dionysus tell us that he is the son of Persephone. However, this has its roots not only in Egypt, but all over the Black Sea region of this Chthonian Dionysus, the precursor to Dis Pater, the underworld Zeus, or Chthonian Dionysus, goes back to the Bronze Age. Dionysus is one of the earliest known gods, with archaeological evidence supporting worship of this wine god dating back to 1300 BCE and beyond, with the god's name appearing on clay tablets in the palace of Nestor in Pylos.
That's a sign of
Some
intelligence,
researchers
Carlin.
speculate
Tiny.
that
That's where
Hades
the phrase
was
dickhead
originally
comes from.
the Chthonian
You have a
aspect
big dick,
of
you're stupid.
Wait,
Dionysus.
seriously? If you have a giant cock, that means you're stupid. If you have a tiny cock, that means you're smart.
That was why they de-emphasized the male. I learned this in art history school. This is they de-emphasized the male genitalia because that way your eyes would look more at the rest of him. And my eyes are up here, people, like that kind of thing. He must be very smart.
I love how, like, in every single one of these paintings, like, the women have at least, like, one boob exposed, and that's totally fine.
And it's very nice. It's a nice boob.
It's always, like, perky and, like, definitely perfect. But, like, the men are, like, no, you're not looking down there, you're looking here.
My eyes are up here. But so the thing is you're not thinking with your dick if it's not a big one.
Wow.
So it's like he must be very smart because he kind of has to be.
You know what? I'm gonna. I'm composing a tweet in my head right now.
Oh, jeez. I'm not responsible for the tweets.
I had no idea about this. This is art is fun. Art history is fun.
It is true. Yay, little dickies.
Yeah.
But that's where I made that up. Like, you're a dickhead because you have a big dick, then you must mean you're dumb. It just seems like correlation. It just seems right.
That's actually, I'm gonna tweet that though. Like, you like the term dickhead comes from the idea that if you have a large dick, that means you're stupid.
Don't quote me though. Don't say you.
I'm not gonna say it was from you. I'm just gonna tweet it and we'll see what happens.
Sweet.
Also, Diodorus tells us that this is part of the secrets of the Eleusinian mysteries, which is why we don't know about this in any myths. This was secret information for initiates only. The theory is supported by a Homeric hymn to Demeter, in which Demeter refuses to drink wine, associating it with the god who abducted her daughter, Persephone, as well as two reliefs found in marble votives from the 4th century depicting Persephone and Dionysus as married. In the Orphic tradition, Hades and Dionysus are linked in a different way with the advent of Zagreus. Zagreus is Persephone's son by Zeus. In this myth, Hades is viewed as the chthonic aspect of Zeus, and they were considered interlinked. All of this is going to matter when I get to my conclusion. But first, I want to talk about Pan. Pan is the god of the wild, shepherds, and flocks. Rustic music, often depicted with goat horns, goat legs, and playing the flute. He's also affiliated with sex. Because of this,
Sex
Pan
with
is
a goat.
connected to fertility.
Well, that makes sense.
and the
It's
season
kind of
of
showing it there
spring.
too.
And just
Yeah,
like the
a little bit.
serpent, he brings rebirth and resurrection. Pan means all in Greek. And just like how I mentioned with Dionysus being depicted or being connected with both Zeus and the underworld, chthonic Hades. Pan also is considered to be an aspect of Jupiter and also an aspect of Bacchus. So Pan, being a rustic god, was not worshipped in temples or built edifices, but in natural settings like caves and grottos and the slopes of mountains and acropolises of Athens. In Israel, in the Galilee, there is a grotto of Pan known as Banias. I was there myself, and the tradition says that this is the opening to Hades. And this is where Pan is also linked with Hades himself, being called the king of the underworld, and his gateway to the underworld was right here in Israel. Pan also battles with Typhon. In the midst of Pan, he's born in Crete. Pan aided his father and brother in battle with the Titans by letting out a horrible screech and scattering them in terror. This is where Pan becomes the image of the devil. You might have heard of Pan's Labyrinth and thought of this equivalency with the devil and hell. This is an ancient tradition that Strabo in his geography relates to us. In book 17 of Strabo's geography, when he's writing about Egypt, he says, as far as Cyane and Elephantine, there are the Thebes guard station and the canal that leads to Tanis, and then Lyconopolis, Aphrodite's, and the city of Pan, an old settlement of linen and stone workers. He then later on says in the next paragraph, there is also a well that lies at a great depth, so that one goes down to it, a monolithic curved vaults of outstanding size and workmanship. There is a canal that leads to the place from the great river, and around the canal is the grove of the Egyptian Acanthus, sacred to Apollo. Abydos, to have been a great city at one time, second only to Thebes. Today, it is a small settlement. If, as they say, Memnon is called Ismendes by the Egyptians, the labyrinth would also be Memnonion, and a work of the same person as those in Abydos and in Thebes, where they say there are certain Memnonia there. Beyond Abydos is the first of the three previously mentioned, the oasis of Ammon in Libya, which is 7 days' distance through the desert. In this settlement, there is an abundance of water and wine. The second is around Lake Morris.
Okay,
and
hang
the
on.
third is around the Oracle of Ammon.
Go ahead.
I feel like I need to break the trance that's happening right now because
All right.
this kind of reminds me of like in the Bible when it just kind of went on with so and so beget so and so beget so and so,
Yeah,
and
a
they
little
went
bit.
to the lake of the blah 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 by the temple of yada yada, and it's like it's a lot of useless kind of information, even though maybe to a historian it might be relevant and interesting, but it does make a point eventually. But what I think he's going on here is he's at least talking about like real places where actual temples and that related to the gods of these myths, just like the Bible talks about places that related to the god of their myths.
Well, it's one of those things, and I was actually thinking about this with the last video and with this one too. It's like I think that like just like a basic timeline is so useful for a lot of things because it allows you to like actually visualize what the evolution of the thing is. And I feel like I wish I had like some sort of like not put in a block of text like this, but I want some sort of chart that's like going and it goes here and it goes here and it goes here and it goes here because that at least allows me to follow and kind of track the evolution of it. And I think it just helps us make more sense of it. You know?
That'd be amazing. I'll bet that's out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody did that because there's a lot of really bored nerd scholars out there that did that. You know, it's got to be. We'll see if we can find something because that would be awesome.
I find like a lot of this stuff with like this really heavy information, and I think about this too in terms of like the socialist stuff. I'm always talking about like I want to build a timeline of this, I want to build a timeline of that because it's just like people need to have information presented in a certain way. Like we think a certain way, and you have to guide people through it. And I don't think people sometimes think about I need to get all these pieces of information in there, but they don't think about how can I best like move people through it so they can understand and they can intellectually grasp what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's why I like presenters that do things more in a story,
Yeah.
you know, or maybe even with a video, you know, because I like moving pictures. They're fun. And it keeps me a little more interested. But yeah, sometimes when you get a little text heavy like this, you can get lost. That's part of why I wanted to take a moment. But I mean, also, I mean, history is interesting. He does wrap this in. So tune out where you want to tune out, but he will wrap it all in together. Eventually, it's really interesting how he does it.
All right.
Much has been said about Ammon. So we have a city of Pan described as a labyrinth. Pan's labyrinth. But also, it is located in a place called Abydos. I find it interesting that this city called Abydos is sacred to Apollo. When in book of Revelation, in verse 11 of chapter 9, it says, a king, the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek Apollyon, which means destroyer. The bottomless pit being identified with the devil. We see in these both locations, in Pan's labyrinth in Egypt and in Pan's grotto in Israel, there is a path to the bottomless pit, the gateway to Hades, the key of the abyss. In Revelation 20, I saw an angel come down out of heaven having the key to the abyss and holding in his hand a great chain. He seized the dragon, the ancient serpent, who is the devil or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He threw him into the abyss and locked and sealed it over him to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore until 1,000 years were ended.
Interesting.
Oh, hang on. Go ahead.
Interesting that, like in the Bible, it talks about an abyss or a bottomless pit, and then he was relating that to this Greek history or this actual real place where it is an entrance to an abyss, but it's not. It doesn't mean a bottomless pit. It's a pit and an abyss, but abyss can mean something that goes on and on and on and on and on. That maybe you can't describe it or you don't know what it is. And so what they're talking about is the entrance to the underworld that can go into this almost infinite realm where, because you have to think about holding all of the souls of the dead as the Greeks believed that Hades held and that the other underworld held. It has to be an unimaginably large place, maybe in place of infinity, infinitum. So, and then here is the Bible saying they're casting the devil into the pit or into the abyss or into the underworld. And some have interpreted that as to rule, and that's why Satan rules hell, and why people believe that that's where you go, because it also is convoluting the lake of fire imagery and all of that stuff. But that's kind of where we get the idea of Satan rules the underworld, because it's never said in the Bible. It doesn't talk about Satan ruling anything or Lucifer ruling anything or the dark angel or anybody ruling anything. God is the only king mentioned that rules all. So I think it's very interesting how it kind of pulls. It's almost like they're pulling from the mythos of their era in a way.
Huh.
Because this is all like the Bible was, as we know it, was kind of put together in Roman and post-Roman times.
Mm-hmm.
This is all Greek mythology. So this shit came first.
Okay.
Just saying. The Dead Sea Scrolls predate it, but the Dead Sea Scrolls don't talk about this either. This was a vision by one of God's prophets who came during Roman times, post Jesus's crucifixion by I think 100 years, I want to say. I'm not sure. Someone's going to need to correct me on that. So, because it says this is the gospel of so-and-so, or the vision of, and I forget who the gentleman was who was the prophet that saw these visions. But it was basically like, if you want to call it a really interesting acid dream this guy had, and that's the book of Revelations. But it's based on Greek myth, as far as I'm concerned.
What I was thinking in my head was, I was like, and it wasn't like directly related to what you were talking about. But it was like, why am I made fun of for having like, psychedelic trips and I see things and basically that's how you guys are telling me the Book of Revelations was created?
pretty much. He had a little too much locust honey.
He had an acid trip, essentially, like an ancient acid trip, and that's how we have the Book of Revelation.
Yeah. Those mushrooms were the perfect mushrooms to write this book. Yes,
Yo.
Janet, I need to
perspective.
draw attention to your comment because I love that you said this. Hell is also thought of as an eternal separation from God. So it isn't necessarily a place, but a state of being. Again, serendipity, divine information. My friend just said the same goddamn thing.
Well, no, and I mean, and I actually believe that too. Again, I think that like hell is a human created invention, and it's like if we see, and how I kind of, one of the ways I kind of conceptualize it is if we see ourselves as separate from God. Like, we're connected to God right now. We're not separate from God. We're not separate from anyone else. Like, that's what the collective consciousness is. But if you see yourself as being separate of God, you're kind of, you are putting yourself in that state.
I personally believe that there's a spark of God or a piece of God inside of us.
In everyone.
Yeah, inside of all of us. And if we lost that, imagine how horrible that feeling to be that empty. Originally, and this is an old Jewish belief, they don't believe in hell or heaven either. The Jews believe that the concept of hell is to be away from God's light and love, and that would be a very cold place. And that is why originally in the first depictions of the devil, he was blue, because you would be very cold. And so of course the evilest of spirits had to be blue to show that he was the opposite of the light and love of God. Later he became red. We can blame the Renaissance for that and some other imagery that they stole from, but anyway.
And apparently also has a tiny dick.
Oh no, Satan's got a big dick because he's stupid.
Tiny.
Is that Satan or who is that?
It's got horns.
That's Pan. Look at his panpipe.
But that's one of the symbols, though. That's one of the things that they're saying that evolved into this, right?
Yeah, well, the little dick was supposed to show that he was very smart.
I know. I'm just pointing
But
it out.
Pan is the god of sex. He should have a raging.
He should have
chunky.
a giant boner.
He should. It should be magnanimous and to be desired and drooled on.
Magnanimous. Have you ever described a dick as magnanimous in any of your books?
No, I don't write those kinds of books. I'll save those for the trash writers.
Do you guys know? Fun fact. I'm like completely off topic. Fun fact. Jennifer has a whole book that has like pages of euphemisms for dick, of all the different words that mean dick.
I do. The Erotic Writers Encyclopedia. Highly recommend. 2.5 pages of
Go ahead.
Of dick and of the can I say vagina and of the vagina.
Yep.
Boobs. I mean, oh my god, you would die. This, and it's globally. There's all different cultures represented here. We do not discriminate when we talk about the dick.
I'm gonna become an erotic fiction writer someday. It's gonna
just
happen.
get that book and read it on a bad day. You will laugh every time. It is the best mood lifter.
It's pretty great, actually.
Pan is also very much linked with Apollo, as the Strabo relates to us. In Ovid's Metamorphosis, throughout the tales, we're constantly being reminded that Pan, who plays the flute, is hanging out with Apollo.
Jennifer, do you know what you should do if you ever launch your YouTube channel?
One of these days, but what?
So it's just a random idea. I'm full of ideas. I'm very creative. I'm giving you a free idea.
Woo!
You should just do a video where you you name all the different euphemisms for dick.
Read the dick section.
Yeah, and have them come up on the screen. And it's like you doing completely deadpan and you can have some funny music in the background or something. That would be hilarious.
I don't think I could do it with a straight face, babe. I don't think I can't. I have a friend that whenever she has a bad day, I send her a video of me reading parts of the dick section. It always brightens her day. And I can't keep a straight face because I'm like, butter spread. Oh my god. The saucy sausage. No. Yeah, there's some beauties in there, man. And a lot of them are British. The best ones are British. They're such a naughty culture.
Bell end.
The what?
I know that bell end.
Bell end. Yes, yep. The bell end. I had to look up if that was one word or two because I had a friend who put that in there, and I'm like, is that one or two words? So we had to look it up. Yes, it is what you think. It's fine.
Yeah.
Who plays the lyre? This brings us to the topic of Lucifer. Apollo, whose epithet is Phobos, which literally means bright, and his sister Diana, or Artemis, who's known as
Luciferia.
Lucifera,
So it comes
Lightbringer,
back to fucking
very
women,
much
doesn't it?
reflect the idea of Venus and Lucifer. The planet Venus is Lucifer, the Lightbringer, and Lucifer, according to Hesiod, is Eosphoros, the bringer of the dawn. Nowhere in any Greek or Roman mythology is Eosphoros or Lucifer evil or doing anything considered evil. He's exactly the opposite. He brings the light and salvation. So how does the devil get acquainted with this title, Lucifer? It comes through the stories of the fallen angels. The story of Apollo, who I just mentioned, is said to have built a foundation and altar on Delos using the horns of the goats that his sister Diana hunted. Apollo is said to have invented the lyre, and along with Artemis, the art of archery, and then taught humans the art of healing and archery. This idea of a god teaching humans knowledge would be considered evil. It is directly connected with the serpent in the garden, telling Adam and Eve that they can be like gods if they take a bite of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In the book of Enoch, angels fallen from heaven teach mankind the arts of metal making, healing, root cutting, etc. You might be surprised to know that there is no Satan in Enoch.
Right here. Hang on.
Satan is not the fallen angels in Enoch.
Satan is not the fallen angels in Enoch.
No. Well, Satan is a... Oh God, who said that? Somebody said in the chat, leave it to the Jews to make Satan a lawyer. That was hilarious. But somebody said that, like, that's based as fuck. But the
Great point.
the arbiter. However, so there was a god named Satan, also called Shaitan, also called Satan, depending on how you pronounce his name. I have been digging and digging to try to find this god. I cannot find him. I know he is mentioned in videos and articles, but it's not in any of the titles, and I can't freaking find it. It is an old, I want to say a Mesopotamian god that was the god that brought science, mathematics, architecture, and farming to humankind. And later was vilified and basically by the church because he was so revered and loved that the new monotheistic religions had to stomp him out and they had to make him evil. So that was another reason why the word Satan became known and equated with an evil god or entity.
Man. And apparently that joke came from Daniel.
Daniel! Helma, that was awesome.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Daniel, for that gift.
It is Azazel and Samael. Azazel is the scapegoat. During Yom Kippur, one goat who represents Azazel
Listen to
and
this.
another goat. In Leviticus 16, 2 male goats are to be sacrificed to Yahweh, and one of the 2 was selected by Lot. For Yahweh is seen as speaking through the lots. One goat is selected by Lot and sent into the wilderness for Azazel. This goat was then cast out into the desert as a part of Yom Kippur. The scapegoat ritual can be traced back to the 24th century BCE of
Okay, I love that this is in here. It's one of the reasons why I favored this video. So the scapegoat is, and he didn't go into the details of the ritual, but the members of the community would lay their hands on the goat and confess their sins to it, transferring their sins into the goat. The goat then carried the sins of the people into the wilderness. The scapegoat was then carrying their guilt, their blame, their shame, their all the things. And that is one of the reasons why, and this was explained to me by a person who was a Satanist. I had a friend who was a Satanist when I was in high school, and he was a lovely person, by the way. He was not
Bill is a
creepy at all.
Satanist. Bill is a priest in the Church of
Oh,
Satan.
yay,
Yeah.
Bill. Well, then let me know if this wax is true. But so they use the goat head as scapegoat because you blame Satan for all your. Remember we were talking about that earlier. You blame Satan for all of your your sins. He tempted me. It was the devil made me do it. So Satan is the scapegoat. So those two ideas conflated, and then some of the satanic symbol with the upside down pentacle with the point facing downward is the satanic, because it's supposed to be the inverse of creation. So the pentacle I'm wearing two actually. Here's my other one.
Ooh.
Is yeah, isn't it beautiful? I love this one. It's a symbol, and this one has a wolf on it because it's my husband's pentacle.
Cool.
But it is a symbol of creation, air, earth, water, fire, spirit. These things together make all of creation. And so it is a symbol of creation and harmony and things working together. And so when you invert it, it is a bit, it's rebellion. It's not necessarily even destruction, as my friend described it. Some people say, well, the opposite of creation is destruction. Well, surely, but for them, it was the reason they inverted it was an act of rebellion, not because they wanted to destroy anything, not because they're evil, but because they're pointing it back towards earth, as man is the god of himself, and we are the scapegoat. Satan is the scapegoat. We get blamed for everything. So they use that as the symbol. You see the goat with the inverted pentacle.
Wow.
So if I am incorrect, if Bill, yeah, let me know. But that's how it was explained to me by my friend. And I've seen it in some other literature, but there's always interpretations and things that are different.
Bill says, yes, that's one of the reasons for goat symbology. The pentagram point down is also because it's the spirit under the material, four elements, grounding and materialism. That makes sense, actually. Yeah.
That's cool. Right on. Right on. Thank you, Bill.
From where it spread throughout the ancient Near East. This was a pagan tradition from the ancient Canaanites. There is another Canaanite deity, an Arab mythology, known as Ezisos. He is equivalent of Phosphoros, the morning star, portrayed riding a camel
The morning
in the
star.
desert. He was venerated in Syria as Lucifer. So now we have this scapegoat god, identified with Pan, as an underworld chthonic deity, and there's a pun on a Luciferian god named Ezisos. Apollo, who is the beautiful god of music and beauty and knowledge, being cast down to earth in punishment by Zeus. This is what is later borrowed for the story of Lucifer, especially in Islam. You also have, as I mentioned, with Enki and Enlil, you have the story of Prometheus, who tells mankind
Prometheus
and
is a Terminator
humans how to build fires
A what?
and how to
He
be
got
like the
Terminator
gods.
Oh,
He is also punished and chained to
meant
a
to be
rock.
burned.
These stories of rebel gods who want to tell humans how to be like gods are what shapes the myth of Lucifer. There is no myth of Lucifer falling from heaven in any Judeo-Christian text ever. This is a later memory, if you will. It's a later collective memory that people put onto
Collective
Lucifer
memory.
through these other myths like Prometheus and Apollo and Diana.
It's like one of those things where we convince ourselves that something is real, but it's not real. And even if you go back and you find evidence that it's not real, you still believe it's real.
Like the butterfly effect.
Yeah, exactly.
In a way, yeah, it became a part of mythos, but he explains where it comes from, and it is in the Bible where it comes from, but it is not what you think. It is not meant to talk about an angel or Lucifer or Satan. It's actually talking about a king, and we're going to get into that. I'm going to go use a little goddess room. I'll be right back.
All right.
Luciferia. You might be saying, well, what about Isaiah? In Isaiah 14:12, how have you fallen from heaven, morning star, son of dawn? In some translations, it says Lucifer. You have been cast down to earth. You who once laid low the nations, you said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the clouds. I will make myself the most high. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. This chapter of Isaiah was literally meant the king of Babylon, who was taken and cut down by the Persians, where he says in verse 3, "On this day the Lord gives you relief from your suffering and turmoil, from the harsh labor forced on you. You will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon," not Lucifer, but the king of Babylon. How the oppressor has come to an end, how his fury has ended. The Lord has broken the rod of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers, which in anger struck down peoples, with unceasing blows and fury subdued nations with relentless aggression. And the lands are at rest and peace. They break into singing. Even the junipers and the cedars of Lebanon gloat over you and say, "Now that you have been laid low, no one comes to cut us down." The realm of the dead below is all astir to meet you at your coming. Isaiah is talking about the king of Babylon, but he's using the imagery of Lucifer, the highest, the most brightest star in the sky. In Canaanite mythology, he's using the greatness of Lucifer, something to compare how great the king of Babylon was. This passage of Lucifer falling gets linked up with all these pagan stories of all these light bringers and gods that rebelled. And you have now the foundation of a fallen Lucifer in the text of Isaiah.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Ezekiel 8:14.
Go ahead.
So he kind of presented that a little backwards, a little inside out. So I typed it up here. I got it pulled up. Isaiah 14:3 says, "Take up this taunt for the king of Babylon." So in other words, remember this, and what's a taunt? It's something you use to jeer at somebody, something you're going to make fun of them. And then all those things about, you're going to fall, how you were so arrogant, basically. You thought you were the morning star. You were the great Lucifer, blah, 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 blah. All the Venus, the beloved of the gods, and you want to put your throne on the most high. So they're mocking. A taunt is a mock. They're mocking his arrogance. They're mocking how great he thought he was. And Babylon, indeed, was a mighty and beautiful city. Of course, it had, wasn't it the Hanging Gardens of Babylon?
Yeah.
Seven Wonders
of the World. Yep.
So they had some statues there. It was a really beautiful city. And the king thought he was so great, or at least that's what this person is saying. So it's no different from someone taunting any other politician. We're seeing a political jibe in the Bible here. That's what this is. Oh, you think you're so great. Oh, you're going to fall. And even the cedar trees will celebrate your demise.
This was like ancient shit talking.
Exactly. And it turned into the story of how Lucifer, the light bringer, fell and became the devil.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore, Jennifer. Human beings have always been the same.
Shit talking is not a new thing.
They've always been the same.
Human nature, baby.
Always. What the fuck?
Yeah. So, and the Morning Star was one of the things that was a nickname for the king of Babylon. They named him after Lucifer, the Morning Star, which of course, as we know, was Venus. Now, and then they also, this guy tied it. It was very meta. He tied it into all of the other definitions of what the Morning Star represented. And then went into that whole thing. It was all the shit talking of how people are going to celebrate his demise because Babylon fell. Because the righteous, remember, they write history. The winners, victors write history. The righteous came in. They took Babylon. It fell. The king died. And this guy wrote a sonnet basically about it. So fuck you. And that's how that works.
You know what? There's something comforting in that to a certain extent. It's like, it really is. It's like we have always been the same throughout history. Nothing has really, the technology has changed. Okay, fine. But really, we have always been the same.
We are animals with a competitive nature. We seem to be naturally jealous and envious of what other people have. This is why communism is becoming a new rising feature in our politics these days. I know we're not supposed to talk politics, but we're in a political statement here in the Bible. And it's not the only one. There are others as well. But I mean, this is what we do. We shit talk. We take people to, we got to take away all this prosperity and give it to everybody else because everybody else is suffering. And you think you're so great because you're so prosperous. Yeah.
You know what I'm really thinking right now, and I know this is selfish, but I'm an Aries. I feel like I'm allowed to be selfish. But I feel like, okay, so like, you know, so Aries are like the baby of the zodiac, right? Like you're like you know, like you're kind of like young and immature, and you like are rambunctious, and you cause trouble, and you poke things that you know you're not supposed to poke.
And you cry when you don't get your way.
You cry when you don't get your way, and you like, I mean, and all this stuff. Yeah, but like I'm seriously sitting here going, I don't want to reincarnate again because I don't want to keep dealing with this shit for all of eternity. Like I'm done. I am done. I don't know how many lifetimes I've lived before this. I don't know why I'm still in Aries, depending on how many lifetimes I've lived before it, but I did something fucking wrong, and now I'm done. There's no further progression that's going to be made. I'm just done.
I'm going to ask, can I go, like, just for a little bit, go, like, incarnate on a different planet and just see how it is over there, and then maybe maybe that'll be worse. And I'll go, I miss Earth, God. You know, like, I don't know.
Like,
maybe I'll just zip around the universe for a couple thousand years before I come back.
This is a punishment of some sort.
But see, it's a compliment because I think reincarnation is a testament to our strength that we are strong enough to go through all this bullshit.
And we keep coming back for some reason, past my understanding.
It's kind of like the last year of college. You're like, just fucking get this year over with. Oh my God. Make me enlightened already. Give me my fucking diploma and let me out of the world. Yeah.
And then even when you get the degree, you're still not fucking enlightened. And then you go out into the real world and you realize how much you don't fucking know.
Then you have to reincarnate again.
And then you turn 30 and you realize how much you really didn't know. And then you turn 40 and then you run out of fucks to give because you realize how much you really, really didn't know.
Mm-hmm. And then you turn 50 and you're dead inside. Ask me how I know.
Oh. Yeah.
I'm not dead inside. I'm just really healthily sarcastic.
It's over.
No,
it's over.
It's fine. I just get to sit back and laugh at all you lovely people.
God, if I could go back and relive my 20s knowing what I know now.
Oh my God. If I could keep my knowledge and go back to being 20, heartbeat, yes. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Oh well, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. Here we are, though. It's fine. It's all good. But isn't this interesting? And this is why we study history. Is to realize that everything is a cycle. I mean, people who are just coming into their first election. I just saw a thing the other day. The kids that survived Sandy Hook, they'll be voting for their first time this year.
Wow.
Yeah, that felt like it only happened like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so like, and these are our Zeds, part of the Z generation that are like, this is all brand new and we invented everything. And the rest of us are like, bitch, please.
Shut the fuck. Like, that's how I feel sometimes around the groypers, where I'm like, because a lot of them are so young, and there are some older groypers too. And I've actually started to connect with some of like the older groypers, and like, it's kind of like on the down low. It's like, it's not, but like with the younger ones, I'm like, oh honey.
Oh my
like, I don't want to say that, but I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about because you're 20 years old. Like,
you sweet summer child.
You sweet thing. You sweet. Yes, go forth and conquer the world, darling. Like, go, because I'm sure she's not gonna do it. I'm too old for this shit. You go do it.
You go do it. My back hurts and my sarcasm is making me intolerable. So yeah, it's your turn. Enjoy.
It's so funny, and I was entertained, but it's so funny to watch Nick kind of grow up on stream, because like Nick just turned 26 and he's starting to talk about like how parts of his body hurt, and I'm like, oh, honey,
at 26?
Yeah, I'm like, wait, just wait, just wait.
Why are you trying to age so fast? I don't understand. Oh my love, do some yoga. You're young. It snaps back for you. God.
Nick doesn't like the gym. He doesn't. He wants to eat McDonald's every day, and he doesn't want to go to the gym. And I'm like,
but he can do yoga in his own living room on the internet. That's what I do.
Can you imagine Nick Fuentes doing yoga?
Can you imagine Nick Fuentes as an old man?
He's gonna get fat. I'm sorry, and I don't say this as any sort of slight. He eats like a child, and he doesn't go to the gym, and he's Italian, Jennifer. He is Italian.
He's gonna pack it.
Yeah, and it's gonna come on quick too. Because I remember distinctly. I don't know if you had this moment. I remember distinctly one day when I was 25, and I woke up, and all of a sudden, all of the fat on my body had redistributed, and I didn't gain any weight. It had just redistributed, and it was like all of a sudden none of my fucking clothes fit anymore.
I think that happened when I was about 37 or 38, right before I turned 40. All of a sudden, I couldn't, like, I just gained and I starved myself. All the things I did, all the things I said to give gluten, blah, blah, blah. Nope, didn't matter. And I'm like, well, my body hates me. But yeah, it's the genes, man. It's the genes.
I constantly hear from people on the internet. They're like, Carlin, you're so fat. You eat so much. Here's how much you eat every day. And I'm like, I fucking wish I ate that much every day. I
No
fucking
doubt.
wish. I've had one meal today. Yeah, I mean,
So did I, actually.
It wasn't even that big of a fucking meal. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, I wish.
No, I'm gaining weight because you people are stressing me out.
Yeah.
You're responsible for my cortisol levels.
Like, you have no idea, child. You have no idea. And just you wait until Nick's body really. Nick is gonna fucking. Again, he has an Italian mother who I think still feeds him. He is going to pack on the pounds at some point.
Does she feed him like the Italian way, or is she like American Italian?
I mean, I think that she's like I don't know exactly how she feeds him, but like I don't know. Like
carbs.
the impression that I get is either like it's that or he's eating like hamburgers off of DoorDash or something. And I'm just like,
that's because he's waiting for the virgin Catholic woman who doesn't want to talk or interact with him to cook for him.
Yeah, who's also going to be Italian, just like his mom.
Well, and how I just want to know if she's going to go to the gym for him too, and she's going to get totally hot, and then she's going to realize she wasted the best years of her life on this.
I think that Nick is going to look adorable when he fills out.
He's going to be cute as a button. No,
he's adorable. He's adorable
Italians
already,
are cute when we gain weight.
Like men can carry it. He can pull it off. He has the charisma.
It's going to be adorable.
It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's not the end of the world to get fat.
We're going to pinch all the cheeks.
Yep. It's not the end of the world. It's going to be fine, guys.
We love you, Groypers. I hope you don't mind us bashing a little on Nick. We love Nick too.
We're not bashing. We're doing some playful
banter.
Nick gets way worse than this in his own super chats. He'll survive. Jesus Christ.
You know, this is from love. It's a place of love. We're just busting him up a little. Is all. Anyway, back to the political conspiracy in the Bible. Here we are, Ezekiel 8:14, and go.
15 through 16 has a interesting passage that I want to relate to you right now. It says, "Then he brought me to the entrance of the gate of the Lord's temple, which faced the north. That's where I saw women seated, weeping for Tammuz. And then he asked me, 'Do you see this, son of man? You are about to see even more detestable practices than these.'" Now, what does this mean? Weeping for Tammuz is a tradition that transcends all the pagan myths. The weeping for the dead god like Adonis or Attis or Osiris. And sometimes it's weeping for Persephone. This is such a central thing to the idea of Lucifer and Satan, because what you are seeing now is the idea of these pagan rites as detestable and abominations.
That was
Ezekiel is telling the reader.
Oh, hang on.
That ceremony you just saw?
Yep.
So with the burning wheel and they're running the wheel, that is the burning of the wheel of the year that is done on New Year's Eve, where they literally set the old wheel on fire. Now, I don't know if that's what we're seeing, but that's what I thought it was, because I know that exists. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But there is a ceremony, looks suspiciously like that, that they burn the wheel of the year and they run it until it runs out of flame, or they eventually meet another pyre and they throw it in. And then you have the new wheel of the year. So the pagans believe in the wheel of the year. So
like the wheel of fortune.
It could be. I suppose we could go there with that if you wanted to, because that totally made sense completely, because it's a wheel. Like there's wheels on cars, and you could keep going, couldn't you?
You could keep going.
Well done, Carlin.
The wheel keeps turning.
Are you drinking tonight?
No, I'm not even high.
Not even high?
I'm not even high. I really should have gotten high on my last stream, if I'm honest about it. I didn't, though. I really should have. It would have made that stream much more bearable. Oh, you're drinking? Oh, man.
That is homemade lemon, baby.
Yo, I want some.
I'm having it with ice. It is delightful. It's a wonderful summer beverage.
All right, let's keep going. We're almost done. 9 more minutes.
Get through it.
Rites that are infecting the Jewish tradition. You start to see this split between Judaism and paganism, which brings us to the story of Jezebel and Elijah. Jezebel worships Baal and Asherah. Baal, who used to be the son of El, another dying and rising agricultural deity of paganism, and her prophets of Baal cannot defeat Elijah, who is sending down fire from Uranus. This tradition depicts the triumph of El over Asherah and Baal, whereas Asherah and Baal later get identified with Isis and Serapis. Baal Hamon and Serapis. There is also a Pergamum altar. The altar of Pergamum worships these deities along with horned Zeus Ammon, which is why in Revelation 2 you get, I knew where you live, where Satan has his throne, yet you remain true to my name. You did not renounce your faith in me, not even in the days of Antipas, my faithful witness, who has put you to death in your city where Satan lives. This was an altar built by Augustus in honor of Zeus Ammon and Isis and Serapis, who are depicted as serpents. Baal Zebub, Lord of the Flies in Hebrew. One of the epithets for Zeus and Pergamum is Epamnos. Zeus Epamnos is the god of the flies, the god of the dead, the underworld chthonic Zeus. That's who Baal-zebub is, who shows up in the Gospels and is cast out by Jesus.
So again, real quick,
Yeah, hang on.
Which brings us back.
Go
I'll
ahead.
be brief. They're talking about the tempting spirit that tempted Jesus in the desert was sent by God. I believe that's in scripture. That's in scripture, isn't it? That he was well, it doesn't say God sent him. It said the devil came to him or the devil was sent to him. It depends on what interpretation you read. That's why the Bible is so tricky. There's so many different interpretations. But that was the Satan, the arbiter, the one to make sure. He had to be the tester, the accuser, the tempter, to say, are you as pure as we hope you are, basically, so that you can be the sacrifice. And so he was sent not to sway Jesus to evil, but to test, to make sure that he actually could be the pure sacrificial lamb that he was supposed to be.
Oh, okay. So it was done in terms of like a bad thing, in terms of like getting him off the path. It was to make sure that he was ready to be the sacrifice.
That yes, because he came to him in a point of weakness. He had been fasting. He was isolated. It had been over a month. It was 40 days or some shit that he was out there. And so then the Satan, the arbiter, comes to test him, to determine if he is worthy of being the sacrifice. And so it's not to sway him or persuade him to do evil things, but it is presented that way because how else do you tempt someone? With riches, with women, with food, blah blah. So that's what that was. But also I think, I mean, it depends on what version of the Christ story, the Jesus story that you claim to. But since we're going along with the biblical version, that's what that was. It was to serve a purpose, much like Judas Iscariot's purpose was to turn him in. So it's all a purpose, and it was all done from. It's like a final exam. Think of it that way.
Got it.
Back to Christianity and Enoch. Enoch's fallen angels, a monotheistic retelling of the pagan traditions as fallen angels. This brings us to the author of Revelation, borrowing heavily from the Enochic tradition. The great serpent, or Satan, as in Revelation 12 tells us, is literally paganism incarnate. He is the light bringer, like Apollo and Diana, who also are cast down from heaven. He is the rebel, like Prometheus, who teaches mankind knowledge. He is the serpent in the garden, who tells you that you can be like gods if you take a bite. He is Bacchus, the spirit that possesses one. He is the Chthonian Hades, the king of the underworld. He is the Saturn king who eats his children. And most of all, he is the image of Pan, the goat god, who lives in the labyrinth in the underworld. And he is Venus, Lucifer, the morning star. these ideas continue after Christianity has a stronghold on the Romans. Baphomet, for example, becomes the Sabitic goat god who is worshipped by the Crusaders. Raymond Aguilera's reports that the term Baphomet comes from a corruption of the word Mahomet or Muhammad. Somehow, this initiation rite of the Templars is about this goat god, Baphomet. Jules Michelet says that the indictment published by the court of Rome set forth that in all provinces they had idols, that is to say, heads, some of which had 3 faces, others but 1. Sometimes it was a human skull, that in their assemblies they had, especially in their grand chapters, they worshipped the idol as a god, as their savior, saying that this head could save them, that it bestowed on the order all its wealth, made the trees flower, and the plants of the earth sprout forth, which is a pagan agricultural idea. Dante in his Inferno plays off of this and also depicts Satan with 3 heads, just as Michelet describes him of Baphomet. And then when we get to Paradise Lost by John Milton, the entire image of Lucifer and Satan is put together perfectly. The fall of man, the temptation of Adam and Eve by the fallen angel Satan, who's also the serpent, and the Luciferian angel. All of it is put together in 1667 by John Milton, who later is picked up by Aleister Crowley and the painting, famous depiction of the Baphomet by Eliphas Livy, depicting this god with the staff of the serpents of Mercury and the pentagram on his head, which is the symbol of the pagan altar, the horns of the goat, the wings of the fallen angel Lucifer, and of course, he is male and female, like Venus and Lucifer. Aleister Crowley uses the Baphomet of Levi within his cosmology of Thelema, the mystical system established by Crowley in the 20th century. Baphomet features in the creed of the Gnostic Catholic Church, recited by the congregation, the Gnostic Mass, in the sentence, "And I believe in the serpent and the lion, mystery of mysteries, in his name, Baphomet." This is where we now have all of these sigils of Baphomet and Lucifer in the Satanic Temple, which is still alive today, as a direct opposition to the biblical religions that seek to suppress the human condition of fleshly desires, of seeking knowledge, of progression. So my conclusion is that Lucifer and Satan is the embodiment of the pagan tradition itself, in a direct opposition to the biblical God. And it is also a realization that you cannot unify ancient religions into one religion. You have to choose. Either you want the Messiah to come and bring in this one world submission to one God, or you reject that idea and instead put up on a throne to worship the world, human growth, and desires, which is not evil and is natural, to take care of Mother Gaia and not wait for its destruction by a Messiah. Let me know what you think in the comments. You have just attained true gnosis.
Ooh, we got the hidden knowledge, Jennifer.
We're Gnostics now.
We're
It's
Gnostics
happened.
now. Well,
It
we are already
happened.
Gnostics. We're already part of the cult. Jeez.
So I have some thoughts. I
Okay.
actually did some notes that I'm just going to share in that closing. I do love how he wrapped that all in at the end, and how like paganism is the embodiment of, well, that Satan is the embodiment of all the pagan deities, most of which were helpful, benevolent, and fun, that they made bad because according to God, you're not supposed to have fun. But so let's see. here are pagan gods with similar stories, things that I have found in my research: Mithra, Hubal, Baal, Zebub, Seta, Satis, meaning Saturn or sowing, Artemis, of course, Luciferia, her brother Apollo, the bright one. Phobos is the root for photon, of course, the light bringer, meaning light. Pluto, god of death. Hades, Bacchus, Dionysus, Pluto. Angramanu, Ahriman, which is Zoroastrian. Enlil and Enki, Azrael or Azazel. Azizos, Beelzebub again, there he is. And the Baphomet, all wrapped into one in the Baphomet in some way. And the Ha-Satan. These are all the influences, since we are talking about, and the theme of this was the invention of Satan. And all of these were the influences that were wrapped into, over millennia, this idea of an evil being. And they had to name it, because once you can name something, you can know it and you can have power over it. And God has power over Satan. The imagery of Pan and Bacchus depicted as part goat and ram, because Bacchus was more ram, Pan was more goat. Medieval art, another reference in that they changed. That is what gave us our original depiction: the pitchfork tail, or the arrow-shaped tail, the holding the pitchfork, the horns, the wings, and he went through all of that imagery and how it came to be. And you'll notice, if you ever look at like medieval art, you'll find the evolution of the satanic image or the devil image evolving from a little tiny black spirit, or it's like a blue spirit or a black spirit, and then it begins to grow in size, because they wanted to show medieval people were not allowed to read the Bible. They weren't allowed to, they were mostly illiterate, so they were spoken to through art. And you would go, this is why you go into churches and you see these beautiful stained glass windows depicting scenes from the Bible, most of which have pagan imagery. This is part of what turned me into a pagan, just saying, because I learned what the origins of all the symbols in each stained glass window meant. And it all came from not Catholic Church, not Christianity. And I've been to Notre Dame and I studied those windows, and I will say it is all pagan imagery. But it is shrouded with a central image of Catholicism: the Mother Mary, the apostles, the prophets, Jesus, yada, yada. So this is how they melded paganism and into Christianity. They took things that were familiar to people and went, oh yeah, our God does that too. Here, this is how we put it together. So also the scapegoat, we talked about that. The snake as the benevolent God, or possibly the spirit that became Jesus, don't know. Pentacle inverted, we talked about that. Let's see, getting to my I already talked about that. I'm just going through my notes. Love my notes. I love my list, Carlin.
I know, sure. Capricorn.
I love organization. It's a thing. One of the things that I was talking a little bit about monotheism versus polytheism, and how the monotheists wanted to take over the polytheists. And what they did is they gave them fear. And in order to do that, they had to give them an evil spirit. The evil spirit had many names. They took all these pagan gods, they brought them in, distilled them, if you will, into the fine distillate that became the dark angel, the Lord of the Flies, the serpent, that old devil, and Satan. Those are all images of old pagan gods that were revered, worshipped, celebrated, that represented aspects of humanity like drinking and sex and revelry and prosperity and farming, even something as harmless as farming. All turned into that, because you're not supposed to look, because God is the only source of light, so you can't have these things being fun. But that was how the church took things over. They melded it together, as you know, with some of the holidays that are celebrated.
It is mind-boggling to me, just as like a side note, it is mind-boggling to me how people can honestly believe that God doesn't want us to have fun. And God doesn't want us to have sex. And God doesn't want us to do any of these things that, like...
Well, he does, but you have to do it God's way.
Well, it's like, but like, it's kind of like an absurd idea, right? I mean, everything in moderation. Like if you overuse anything, it's going to be destructive inherently. But it's just like this idea that we're only supposed to do things in this very controlled way is just like, really?
Drink responsibly.
Yeah.
Imbibe, but be responsible. So here's one of my things: is way back when the Catholic Church was burgeoning, priests were allowed to get married and have families. And there was a very crotchety pope who was very bad with women, and but not just him. I'm sorry, he was one of the he wasn't a pope, he was like, I want to say he was a cardinal or something. But there was a pope that noticed that when these priests died, their riches and wealth that they had accumulated because of through their actions and working went to the families,
not to the church.
and he wanted the wealth to go to the church. So he initiated the doctrine. And I know the Pope's name and I can't think of it right now, but look it up, you'll find it. He changed the doctrine that meant that the priests are now supposed to be celibate, unmarried, blah, blah, blah stuff. And this is the thing that really irritates me, is that nobody questioned him, because one of the first fucking things in the Bible is it is not good for man to be alone.
Yeah.
And aren't we seeing the repercussions of that?
For real.
Just
For
saying.
real.
The rest of it is they wanted someone to blame for all the bad things happening. It also created a greater need for God, but they also needed a tool for fear, because they needed to scare these people, especially in the Middle Ages, where it really crystallized the images of Satan, the big wings, the big horns, the Lord of hell, fire, the torturer and consumer of evil people. Dante's Inferno was a big source of inspiration, even though he didn't mean it to be an inspiration for the creation of Satan or the devil.
Do you know what that picture is right there? That's Dali did a whole series of paintings about Dante's Inferno. That's Dante walking into hell right there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Based. Very cool.
Mhm.
It's meta.
Yeah.
So but that became some of the imagery, and it was to inspire people who couldn't read, and they weren't allowed to read the Bible for sure. Who could interpret the word of God except for God's chosen few, which was the priesthood? So these great paintings during the Middle Ages were, and in the churches and wherever that, paintings were, I mean, they most of the masters in the Renaissance too, but before the Renaissance, they could only paint religious art. The Sistine Chapel, all of these things could only be, you could not, it was almost like, how a lot of Islam is, you can only, you can't do images of God, but you have to only sing for God and praise God, and everything has to be because of God. The Catholic Church was very similar to that during the Middle Ages, in that you could not do any other art unless it was a reference to God or scripture.
Wow.
And told the stories of the Bible. And so that's why you have all of that art. You don't see portraits unless it's of a pope or a monarch. You don't see pictures of daily life in middle London. You don't see any of that because you weren't allowed to. It was forbidden by the church. Then the Renaissance happened and fucked everybody up, and it was the best thing ever and led to the intellectual era, the rebirth of the intellectual era. That's why it's called the rebirth, the Renaissance. The last bit I have is, in much of the myths, God is a God of wrath. He even says it in the Bible. He says, I am the God of wrath. And he was, the thing that a lot of people that we find is that in especially the Old Testament, he's angry at his own creations, so much so that he destroys them. That God is not the loving, benevolent God we have in the New Testament. He destroys the world. He does it with a flood. And in Revelations, New Testament, he'll do it again with a great war. It is God who releases the beast, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse as well. Not Satan.
Huh. So true.
So what's interesting is that God gets the credit for all the good things, and
But
Satan
not
gets
the bad.
Even though if you look into it, it is not like, so God created all the things, fine. Some people say, well, these are manifest of Satan and God just allows it. Well, yeah, but I had a really interesting debate with a friend of mine, and I told him, this is many, many moons ago, and I said that God created evil. God created lies. God is the father of lies and evil. And he went, well, that's not possible. God is all good, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, God created Satan.
Yeah.
He's like,
You
well,
can't
but
you can't know good if you don't know evil, if you don't know bad.
yeah.
You know?
There was no concept of that until
Yeah.
Satan turned. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I thought the angels didn't have free will. That was man's gift. So what happened to Satan? So we were this whole very interesting, stimulating conversation, I might add, because I do love diving. And and again, people, I'm not saying anybody is wrong or right, that any religion is wrong or right. It's not about that. This is about a trading of ideas and history and why we find ourselves the way we are. The discovery of patterns, as we discovered a few tonight. Beautiful things. What does God say? Know thyself. That is how you break the cycle. So
this is gonna fuck with me for a while, Jennifer, that really we are in a constant, never-ending cycle that has been going on since the birth of humanity.
Time in memoriam.
I really think the aliens are gonna have to just show up, like, and reveal themselves. Like, I mean, I think they're already here, but they're gonna have to like reveal themselves, just like in that what is that movie? Well, so it was a short story first. A Childhood's End.
That book fucked me up. That book fucked me up.
Yeah, that whole thing, and like I like the sci-fi movie somewhere. There's like there's
Oh
a
no,
miniseries on the Sci-Fi
terrible.
Channel.
It was terrible. No,
Well, it was,
ugh.
but it's like it's a quicker depiction than the book, all right. But like, but it's like a messed up story. Like,
The
I
book's
mean,
like 120 pages long. You couldn't pull that off in 4 hours.
okay, I saw the miniseries first, Jennifer. It was my first introduction to it.
Okay, all right.
I didn't know it existed
That's fine.
until the miniseries.
I was a Heinlein fan in high school, so I actually read the book, and it fucked me up. It messed with me so hard. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to.
But the aliens had to reveal themselves in order for humanity to evolve. Now, humanity eventually evolved. It got sucked into the collective consciousness with everything else, and maybe that's not so great. But
that's what fucked me up. Yeah. I don't like
but,
that.
But
they were the devil. They looked like devils, and they said we tried this, 1,000 years ago, and it went badly.
They're like so people don't know the story. Like, so these aliens basically come to Earth, and they're like basically like, we're gonna give you all this cool stuff, but we're not gonna reveal ourselves for like 200 years or something like that.
Yeah, well, you get one generation, and they want one emissary that they will talk to, but they still won't show him. And they didn't even show themselves to him until right before he was gonna die. And they revealed themselves, and he's like, "Oh, that's why," because they look just like the devil.
And then finally, they reveal themselves, but they've already built trust at that point, and they already have kind of got their legs.
And erased history.
Yep.
That is how you brainwash, reprogram.
Yep.
And look what's happening. They are culling knowledge in the internet as we speak. We are going through and witnessing in real time the second burning of Alexandria.
That's why people need to have physical copies of everything. I firmly believe this. People need to start collecting physical copies of old books, honestly, not in like dictionaries and like school textbooks and like historical books, everything. People need physical copies of fucking everything.
Yeah. Keep it. I have a really old set, like from the 1920s of an encyclopedia set that I got from my grandfather.
Oh yeah, encyclopedias. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in a box. I haven't opened it since I got it when he passed away, but I'm like, this has knowledge in it that is going to be inconceivable to people today. They're not going to realize, like, the definitions for things have changed so much over the last 100 years. Anyway, so those are my points. What are your closing and final thoughts, like your takeaways?
My closing and final thoughts is like, this is just my, I mean, it's like, I don't have a whole lot of faith in humanity, if I'm honest about it. It's like all these people that are scared of this thing. And again, I didn't come into this believing that Satan was like a real thing. I think it's, like I said, a human-made thing designed to control people. But it's kind of like it boggles my mind sometimes that all these people who will talk about studying history and studying all these ancient cultures and studying religion, they somehow gloss over all of this information that's all out there in terms of like the development of the myths that they themselves believe in, and they don't want to be honest about it. And again, I think it's like one of those things where I don't begrudge anyone being an adherent to any religion or being a member of any church. See, dog doesn't like that though. Dog
my husband is home, so she's running to the door.
She's got to welcome him. But like, all religions have good life lessons. Like, you can learn stuff. Like, there's wisdom there. There's community there. There's fellowship. There's, being able to connect with people of like-minded values. I get all that, and that brings comfort, and that, that's a positive thing in people's lives. But I wish people were just more honest about what it is, like how these belief systems were created. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you can find fellowship and have community with people without lying to yourselves about the origins of those things.
But it's not a lie if nobody knows the truth.
Yeah.
Or is it?
True.
Is it though? I mean, that's kind of like a deep thought, because so many people, like, I was raised knowing that my church was the true church. We were the chosen people of God. Everybody else was going to burn at some point, or they were going to have to go through the tribulation and death. Like, I knew I was chosen of God. And then when I finally began to question it, and that's why in cults, they ostracize you. And many Christian sects, they will ostracize. They don't want to keep in touch with you anymore because they don't want you to poison the well, if as it were, with your crazy ideas and questioning and knowledge.
But that's just the thing, and I can forgive people to a certain extent because like if you're walled off from knowledge, you're walled off from knowledge. Like especially when you're a kid, there's nothing really you
Yeah.
can do about it. Like
True.
that's not anyone's fault, but it's kind of like at some point, even with the circumstances, you did start questioning it.
Yeah.
And you allowed yourself to go down the road of questioning it. And I think there are more than enough people who have access to a full set of knowledge that just they choose to remain willfully ignorant. It is more beneficial in their lives to pretend the knowledge doesn't exist or to lie about it or to twist it or to make it something it's not than it is to actually just face like here's what's going on. And it's kind of like, you know, I mean, going back to like the whole idea, like we just keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again. Well, if people are choosing, if the collective is choosing to remain willfully ignorant, then we're going to keep repeating it because the collective is powerful. Like and it's not like everyone believes the same thing, but like if the majority of people believe something, it's near impossible to, you know, pull humanity out of whatever pattern they're in. And that's a little bit depressing to me, to be honest. That's why I'm like, can the aliens just show up? Can they just reveal themselves? Can they just
I'm ready for the mothership. Take me.
I really am. I'm not even joking about this though, and it's funny because there have been these instances over the past couple years where there's been like UFO sightings or this testimony in front of Congress about UFOs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you're like, and people barely even noticed, and they barely even paid. There was a whole congressional hearing about UFOs.
I know.
I was like, no one even fucking noticed, and I was like, can they just reveal themselves in Central Park or something? Can there just be a big fucking spectacle of an alien reveal party, and then we can actually get on with it.
There are, unfortunately, and this is another show we'll have to do, there are aliens who are here and involved in the reason why we don't know there are aliens.
Oh,
because
great.
they are covering it up with the help of our government. They're covering up the knowledge because they want us ignorant. They don't want us to know. They want to keep us in our bubble, and they are profiting from it. And that's a whole nother topic, but
fucking alien capitalists, are you shitting me?
Well, it has to do somewhat with wealth and trade, but a lot of it has to do with the eating of evil energy, and that's a whole nother thing. There's a dualistic thing. There's the well, I don't want to get into it, but there's some of it that is the evil of evil energy, and there's the some that are the capitalists, because apparently I'm not going to go into it, but there is a race that has no soul, that cannot spiritually evolve. But they live for a very long time, thousands and thousands of years.
What race?
It's the Draconans.
What? An alien race?
Mm-hmm. The Draco, the lizard people.
Oh, the fucking lizard people! Are you shitting me?
No, this is the theory. I'm telling you, I've learned a lot of shit. I don't want to go on a tangent, but they don't have.
The lizard people have no soul and can't spiritually evolve, and so the lizard people are conspiring with people on our planet to...
They may as well enjoy the wealth. They can't evolve. They cannot become enlightened, so they may enjoy the wealth. May as well enjoy our wealth. Then they live for thousands of years, and they don't want to die. They're trying to uncover immortality so they don't have to die, because for them, it is over. Now that is deep, deep, dark woo. I don't know if it's true. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just reporting don't kill the messenger. I'm just reporting shit that I have heard from people. Many people, some people who are government whistleblowers, some people who used to work for the CIA, people who channeled, people who were part of the secret space program. This shit, there's some deep dark woo caves, Carlin. Deep dark woo.
Are the lizard people also Jewish?
Would you quit?
You say they're the owners of all the wealth, Jennifer. I mean, I feel like it's a fair question to ask.
There are connections, yes, but only to the wealthy, and there is a hierarchy. The white ones are the in charge ones, and they have been instigating racism throughout the world. And then they have the red and the green. The green are the lowers.
The Jews are the lizard people.
No, the Jews are not the lizard people. I didn't say that. Do not twist my words, Miss Missy. I did not say that. I have a lot of love and respect.
I'm not saying. Well, okay, fine.
Stop it. Stop it. I know what you're gonna do. Quit. Not here. Not here. Not now, Miss Missy.
The Jews are definitely not the lizard people. I'm just making shit up. The Jews are definitely not the lizard people.
I'm telling. Okay, so It has to do with wealth. It doesn't have to do with religion.
I know.
That's all I'm gonna say. But we'll have to do a deep dive of Woo in the Woo Cave for that one. But that's why I like history and I like to see who's pulling strings. And it is always about power, control. It is always about those two things. It doesn't matter if it is 5 centuries BCE or 5 centuries after BC, ACE, whatever. Current CE, current era, whatever the fuck, whatever they did, because I think they're trying to get rid of the BC and AC, pre-Christ, after Christ, or whatever it is, after something. It's Latin anyway. But they're trying to do before current era and now current era. It doesn't matter. It is always about power and control, and that goes for religion, the manipulation of God, the manipulation of Satan, and the manipulation of how commerce is distributed.
There's only so much hidden knowledge I can take, Jennifer. I think my brain might just be about to pop at this point with all of the.
Wait, okay, hang on. He's in his little box, but I got him for you. Here you go.
Oh
Here.
God. Oh yeah, basically. Yeah. All right, that's a good time to end the show, I think. My brain just went
poop. Yeah, that'll be that. So we're looking forward to our next. I don't know what we're gonna do next week, but I will make an announcement that I am going to be posting a poll for movie night. We're going to be honoring the great James Earl Jones.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to post see if I can remember off the top of my head. Field of Dreams. Oh God, I just died at Field of. No. Oh, my husband just said The Sandlot. Oh, that's what you wanted.
The Sandlot. I said The Sandlot. No. Jennifer was like, no.
Goddamn Sandlot. No, not doing The Sandlot. Oh my God. Let me pull up my, hold on. I'm going to pull it up because I can, because I'm here and I can, and it'll only take me 2 seconds while I talk about how it's only going to take me 2 seconds.
Sandlot is a great movie and Jennifer doesn't appreciate it.
No, it is a fine movie. I just don't think it's as good as come here thing, scroll. Here we go. As Field of Dreams, The Hunt for Red October are coming for America, coming to America. So I'm going to be posting that poll. Hold on, get rid of this. That is what we'll be doing. I can't find where our stream is. There we are. So yeah, so I'm going to be posting that poll tonight. If not tonight, tomorrow, definitely. And I believe that Mac, my new partner in crime for movie night, who hosts on Mondays, is going to be doing Lara Croft Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. Mm-hmm.
All right. So for people who don't know, we're now doing movie night on Sunday and Monday. Sunday at 8 p.m. Monday after the supporter Zoom call around 9 or 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, right in there.
So
I went to his Dark Crystal one last night. It was fabulous.
I was sad to miss it. I was working on my socialist dictionary because I wanted to get it done and published. But Jennifer, I'm going to turn my socialist dictionary into like a little mini fucking book that I'm going to publish.
Let me know if you need any help.
I might, because I just finished like the first draft of it last night. I'm going to be messing around with that program that you told me about because I just want to get it out into the world. I just want it done.
Make sure you got a good editor though.
You know who my editor was? ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my copy editor, and it's fucking fabulous, and it's so fucking great. It's so helpful.
I'm not sure we can still be friends. I just don't know.
Jennifer, it's so helpful. I don't know how I ever wrote a book without AI. It's
artificial intelligence. You're supposed to be intelligence, not artificial intelligence.
Well, you have to be intelligent to ask the right questions. It's not like I'm letting the ChatGPT write the book for me. I'm writing the book and then I'm putting it in. I'm saying, copy edit this, make it that. Can you organize this a little bit better for me? Are there any words that I'm missing? Can you give me a list of the top 100 socialist words just so I can double check to make sure that like I've got all the words that I need? And then I use my own discernment to figure out what I want to put in, what are the proper definitions, what I want to accept from ChatGPT, what I don't want to accept. And it fixes all my grammar mistakes. And it fixes all my typos.
You're the reason I can't stop drinking, Carlin.
ChatGPT is fucking awesome.
You are my scapegoat.
Oh, man. I don't know. I'm never writing a book without AI again. And again, it's like I'm writing a book.
Fantastic. But sounds fantastic for nonfiction. I still do recommend a human proofreader at least, which you can find relatively inexpensively, and I can show you where if you want to.
No, I'm going to use ChatGPT. You know who my human proofreaders are? It's people who signed up for my Substack to read the drafts, and they can provide me feedback.
Pump that shit. That's right. Sign up for Carlin's Substack. That way you can have access to the Discord, the locals, the movie nights, all the things that are good.
It's true.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
ChatGPT is the best. I'm never gonna let
Oh,
you sway
hand me
me from
my
AI.
Alien Bond book, would you? I have to show this.
Okay. Oh, Jennifer wrote a book about sex with aliens.
Baby.
You can buy it now on Amazon. Jennifer, what is the name of it?
It is called Alien Bond. I'm doing an experiment. It's a novella, very thin, and it is part of my Otherworldly Creatures. I'm doing creature features of different monster lovers because it is fun and I want to make money so I can then focus on my more serious works. Yes, I have them.
Your more serious erotic fiction works. Jennifer is a very serious erotic fiction writer.
I am.
Much better than 50 Shades of Grey. I'm saying that. I'm actually being serious. Jennifer is a wonderful writer. I'm not being facetious. I'm actually being serious. And I'm just making fun because it's erotic fiction. But like
hey, it's a genre. And it's a fun genre. And trust me, and we said this last week, it's good for your marriage. Read it.
Listen, 50 Shades of Grey is one of the best-selling books of all time, and your book is significantly better than 50 Shades of Grey. Like, significantly, to like the nth degree.
Fiction is, actually.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yes, dear. Oh, my husband's shouting at me something about a distillery. He wants a distillery. He's desperate. Anyway, okay. We're not going to do that online at all, where it's public.
All
Hello.
right.
Okay, goodbye. All right, this is
all
fun.
right. We're done.
Please let us be done.
We're
done. I say any more shit.
We'll see you next week, Jennifer. Thank you for explaining Satan to us. We appreciate you.
Love you guys. Oceans of love.
All right. Night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.